We are a go-go. We are a go-go. We are a go-go. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. None of that countdown business. Yeah, Josh has just said you're live. We are live. There's 3 of us in the studio today, dotted around. It's a good job. It's a big room, isn't it?
I was going to say, we're lucky we've got the
dotted
distance.
around. Hey, look, I blend with the quilt, Jane.
You
I've
do.
just
You
realised.
do really well with it.
It's a happy accident. Good morning. Did you have a nice Easter? Did you enjoy yourself? Eat your body weight in chocolate? Yep. Yep. Did you eat? You didn't? Are you?
Yeah, I'm back on the chocolate now.
Did
and I died into a chocolate coma by Sunday.
Jane's so good. She did all of Lent without chocolate. Gary, you a chocolate person?
I am dreadful.
Are you?
I go through my thing at the moment. I would say Easter so far. I've probably done 4 boxes of Maltesers.
4 boxes of Maltesers. Good job.
Plus a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I am a bit naughty when it comes to chocolate.
I think that's okay. That's okay. We'll let you. As you might guess, Gary DeBrick is here from Dukey. We have got, so the way that this morning is going to pan out, I will come live tomorrow and show you the half metre heavens because we haven't got time to fit in everything this morning. So I'll do a little Facebook Live. You know, I'm getting a bit better at them sometimes. I'm not. Gary,
I'm sure you are.
No, I find things like sunglasses and hats and stuff to put on and all sorts of things on that you can do on this. It's a revelation. So yeah, I'm not very good at it. Anyway, so and then I show them the mess, and Gemma's like, "Don't show everybody the mess."
It's creative.
Exactly, it's creative. Yes, creative space. It's a safe creative space. So I'm going to show you a couple of bits here. Jane will then, what are you doing, Jane?
Just going to talk about putting the blocks together today.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really got anything else to show because of the...
We are at a bit of a stage where our fabric is, I don't know, probably in the Suez Canal somewhere. And so what should have been here last month hasn't arrived yet. So we've just swapped the months around. So block of the month, the finishing bit will be next month because we are sure the fabric will be in by then. So you will still get everything in. This is basically the free show that you would have had next month. Swapped around. So Jane will do a bit of that today. Then Gary's going to come on and show us the NX7. So if you've got any questions, these have flown. So what these are basically the all singing or dancing Dukey machines. Kiri means beautiful, and it is a fantastic machine, and you've seen me use it for the last year and a bit. But what we've managed to get hold of for you, because there's been a new machine come on the market, there have been customer returns or demonstrator returns or whatever. They've come back to Dukey. They've been completely refurbished. You know, they're going out looking like new. You've got a 2-year warranty on them. So you're safe as houses, and it's meant that we can take a whole big chunk off the price for you. They're only available here. They're not available anywhere else. We don't do, as you know, we don't do finance options. So that's why I gave you the heads up last week, like if you need to get a credit card in place or whatever it is, or just to give you warning, because we don't all have that down the back of the sofa. I know I've rummaged, not there. Then, you know, it's given you the heads up. So these have already been selling. They've already been selling this morning. So if you want one, please get in quick. The ones that we now have are on a delayed dispatch of 4 to 6 weeks. And that's just so that it gets them time to get through the workshop, fully serviced, fully done, and everything up and together, and then out the door to you. So if you are willing to wait that long for the price tag, then please do, you know, do for your boots. But that is the thing, they are going fast. And Gary, do you reckon there'll be any more after that, or?
Well, what we've done this time is, as you're saying, because of the new machine,
yeah.
We say it's not taken over the NX, it's still a current model, so
yeah.
it's not discontinued or anything like that. But we've got, obviously, with some of our tutors, then they will travel with the new machine rather
yeah.
than the previous model.
Well, when the new machines come in, for example, I might get...
well, we have, I know,
you know,
yes, there is...
I just say it. If I say it, it might happen.
Your name's on that list.
It's on the list. And so then, you know, that's how that will work. So at some point there might be others, but I can't tell you when, because again, shipping containers coming in with the machines.
We've got them stuck somewhere at the moment.
Oh no, I had a phone call yesterday about the Tilda fabric, and that was, so you know how it was going to be here last month? Yes. Yeah. So it was the 3rd ship behind the one that got stuck. Brilliant. It's going to be a bit longer. Right, let me show you these and then I can hand over, because I am quite aware that you might not actually be able to hear Gary terribly well because he's not mic'd yet. I need to find us on here because Facebook changes all the time. It's so annoying. And I need to say good morning to everybody. Oh, here we go. Here we are. Here we go. Morning all. Morning. Who we've got? Heather. Good morning. Oh, she spent a lovely morning watching the interviews. Oh, did you enjoy them? I was so lucky that they, had some spare time and could have a good old chat. Margaret Smith. Morning. Eagerly anticipating another fab Stitchy Witchy Wednesday. It's the Stitchy Witch here, just so that Gary's just looking like what. So good morning to everyone. Judy, no, it is, it's on delayed, it's all on delayed, so don't worry, you will get it. Morning, Ginny. First hedgehog last night. Oh,
Well, he picked the wrong day to come out of
I
hibernation.
know, didn't he? Bad
Sunshine
planning.
comes out, then snows on.
Yeah.
Really
Bless
bad
it.
planning. First hedgehog last night, water dish frozen, will put out an egg for her tonight. In my head, I was like, does an egg stop water freezing? Is this something I've missed for them to eat? Do hedgehogs like eggs?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
What, like boiled, fried,
No,
raw?
Raw.
Just raw?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for my fox, I know a lot of people don't like feeding the foxes, but I do. I've got the foxes I feed with the eggs, and also the hedgehogs love them as well. So.
Yeah. Good source
Hey!
of protein.
I mean, my chickens went to the fox.
No, I know. That's why a lot of people say that.
It's one of those things, though, isn't it? But if you feed them, they might not eat your chickens. Right, do you want to see these? Because I know storage is always a thing. So we've got some stacking storage here for... hang on, my angle's changed. What's happened? There we go. So if you fancy some of these craft storage stackers, you can get them in various different sizes. I thought they were quite handy. Not going to lie. Whoops. I've also got for you this morning, just so that you know, we've got a mending needle. You know when... well, I mean, for me, the cat tends to pull stuff on my jumpers. This hooks it back, pulls it through. Amazing. We've got a few of those. And also, for those of you with overlockers, feels appropriate today. Hi, Gary. You can pull these through and hide all your endy bits. Clever, right? Clever.
Also, when threading an overlocker with one of those as well, if you haven't got an automatic looper threader, then because it's got the hook on, it will catch the threads. You can pull it through.
Oh, that's good. There you go. Help thread your looper with that. You heard it here first. Or not if you can't hear Gary very well. But, you'll get there. Professional flower head pins. We were asked for them, so we got them. Curved safety pins. We were asked for them. We got them. We've got them in 2 different sizes, depending on how thick your quilt is, how tight you want it held, basted, because we will be basting at some point, won't we, Jane?
We will.
Yay!
We will.
And then there's a bigger pack. How many do you get through for a quilt when you baste? Because you pin baste, don't
Yeah.
you?
I
I
can get
spray
through
everything.
about 300 if I'm doing a quilt that size. The one behind.
So you'd need 2 of those.
2 packs, yeah.
Okay. And this has been incredibly popular because you can stick all your pens and everything there. Then you put your bobbins round there. If you've got your magnetic pin cushion, that sits beautifully in there. I'm really hand-fisted today. It sits in there. I mean, yours will sit in beautifully when you take this off. I've got, I know where stuff is now.
Yeah.
Got it on the desk. It's great. We've got 3 more sizes here of your little stackers to take a look at that. I am rushing, I know, because I know we've got lots going on. A stuffing tool. If any of you have ever tried to stuff a Tilda toy leg, I don't think I could say that fast, a lot, then you need this in your life. Handy gadgets today, I feel.
Real handy gadget.
Yeah, I had a good rummage and came up with some beautiful stuff. And then talking of beautiful stuff, if ever you fancy going on holiday with Kay Fassett,
Look how young he is there.
I know, I
So
know. For those of you that watched Brandon's interview yesterday, you'll know what this is. This is where Kaif and Brandon go to India and Vietnam, and they hired an award-winning BBC cameraman to basically go with them and follow and document their journey. And so it's basically you get to see the mindset of Kaif when he takes in all of the colour in all the places. I have a handful of these left. They flew yesterday, but I have a handful less for those of you that are going, what is this? So it's basically a very inexpensive way to go on holiday with Cave. Lose yourself for an hour or so. Enjoy it.
Really lovely.
There we are. Yeah, they said to me the other day, they're like, oh, we've got these. Do you think anyone? I was like, yes, we'll have those. Thank you. On behalf of my viewers, we will have those. Thank you very much. Please and thank you, send them. And so they did. I had a tidy up, Jane. You can tell we've got guests going. I had a little tidy up. I mean, to be fair, there is still mess. Gary's very kind and says it's creative. Very nice man, Gary. Very nice man. Who put those? They're handy, aren't they? Really handy.
They're very good, aren't they? If you're limited on space, because you're stacking them up, it's...
They twist on, don't they?
Yeah.
They're all good. Right, let me get all of this out of your way. I'm going to hand over to Jane. I don't know what that's doing there, but it's a Tilda charm pack. Pop that up there. There we go. Beautiful. Gary found out the root of the rattle, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you've got any questions for Gary, now's your chance. I'm going to high five you in like a relay styly, Jane.
Yeah.
But not actually touch you, because you know you can't do that anymore.
Not allowed.
Not allowed. No, not that I was in the habit really of,
No, it's not...
you know, not like handsy
No.
or anything. No. Who else have we got? Martine, good morning. Good morning, Grace. Oh, she loved watching the interviews. Fabulous, captivating and so interesting. You see, Brandon and Cave were worried that it was too long. But I think... That's just
I
the
know he's
turning
going to
on.
make that noise.
I know,
It's just
I know.
like...
No, Brandon and Cave were worried that it was going to be too long. But you just get in the flow.
Oh, I just thought it was lovely. I felt afterwards, particularly with Cave, I love Brandon and I've met him a couple of times and he's so lovely and generous. I just felt like I'd sat with friends having a coffee and having a chat. It was just so lovely, and both of them,
They're just
so
utterly
generous
delightful.
with their time and so full of interesting knowledge.
No,
I loved it.
I do adore them. So just to reiterate, for anybody that's just tuned in now, you will not have received this month's block of the month because it's on a boat somewhere.
Yeah.
And when it gets off, has it docked?
It should have docked. I haven't checked actually with Duncan. I should have checked before I came on air. The last I heard, the ship was just going past our docks to go up to the Dutch docks to then come back and unload for us.
I think there's been a bit of that going on.
Yeah, so he was expecting it any day like today, but obviously with the bank holiday weekend and all the other restrictions we're under at the moment, he wasn't absolutely certain. So any time now it should come to him.
Okay.
It'll be a week then before it's dispatched, and then I'll have it, and then I can get it all cut up, and we'll definitely have it next month. And you'll have all your fabric for the borders. You're going to have quite a nice big bundle of fabric. So there's the 3 fabrics for the borders. We've got this one, and that one, and your binding fabric will be in that bundle, and you'll have the instructions for completing your quilt, which will have the layout of the middle section, and then the how we put the borders on, which I will demonstrate next month.
Jane, for anybody that wants to get ahead and buy their wadding, I've got some beautiful 80/20 in.
Lovely.
Yeah, no, it's really nice, and I've made sure it's really wide, so it's over 2 meters wide.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's being sold by the meter. How many meters will they need?
2.5, I think, because I think we might get away with 2 actually, because it's 75 by 75 square.
So that gives you 2.5 inches either end then, doesn't it?
So if you're having it long armed, get 2.5 meters.
Okay.
Because they'll need at least 4 all the way round if you're going to take it to your long arm quilter. But if you're doing it yourself, you might want to have a go at the quilt as you go method. We've got the instructions, haven't they? With the quilt as you go on the website. It's a straightforward way, the one I use, and it doesn't use any sashing in between, so you can easily put a blocked quilt like this one together with the quilt as you go method. If you want me to, I can go over that next month as well, the quilt as you go method, just to reiterate that, so we could do that next month as well. So really, all I'm going to do is talk about putting the blocks together for the middle section.
Right.
If you've got any questions about the blocks that we've done 7 blocks so far. We've done 6 in the middle section, and then the 7th one is that cornerstone there. So
That's one of my favourite bits of it.
I know, I love that
It's just
little
beautiful.
wave bit.
Just beautiful.
So
Quick token daft question before we get going.
No.
Gemma wants to know, do you put the egg out whole or do you crack it in a bowl?
for the hedgehog, I think you break it and put it in a bowl.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, but for your fox, he likes to have a good munch on the shell as well.
Okay. All right. This is good to know.
Told your foxes in your garden?
It's a bit like Nature Watch, isn't it, here?
Yeah, it's like
It's all fine. We need to know these things. Thank you. Excellent. Good. All right then.
So it's just going to be a very quick, how are we going to put this together? You'll have the layout. This is my layout. This is quite crumpled now, but in your when you get your instructions next month, you will have the completing. This is my rough drafts copy, and I've done a layout like this, and I'm hoping, and Josh with his lovely wizardry will be able to superimpose the actual inside block layout underneath that grid.
It'll be fully Joshed,
Yeah,
won't it?
he'll
'Cause
work
he
his
does
magic
stuff.
on it.
Yeah.
And so
It's as technical as we get. He does stuff,
he just does magic,
and then it looks
he's
pretty.
you know, you
It's
call me
great.
Stitchy Witchy, but he's a wizard when it comes to the layout and everything. So because although we've made the blocks in the same way, that they've got different orientation to give us that circular effect of the medallion in the middle. There are 5 rows of blocks, and there's 5 blocks in each row. And what I've done is the middle block is 1 row, and then row 2 and 3 is mirror image underneath. So you'll do 2 rows of 2, and you'll do 2 rows of 3. You'll do your centre row,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just put 2 either side of the centre one and 3 either side of row 2. So it's quite a straightforward layout, but it just needs taking, take your time, lay it on your bed, put it out, and have a play with it. Turn your blocks round, have a look at it, put different blocks in different places. You should have made by this time or next month or even 12 months down the line when you eventually get round to it. Whatever you're doing with it, you will have some blocks you will have 4 of, and then there's the 1 block, which is this one here with the friendship star in it. You will have 8 of those blocks. That's the only one, but
Yeah.
you can have a play with it, and you might decide, actually, I want to make more of this block. And we've been quite generous with the kits, so you've probably got quite a bit of leftover fabric. And we have a little bit of some of the fabric, so if you need any more...
When they arrive, we will. Naomi, yes, we are waiting on... We've had one bolt of beautiful backing fabric arrive.
Yes.
There are so many more on order. Again, it's just waiting for them to dock, but hopefully they'll be here for next month, and then we can show you all of those. But
we'll have
I
it all
will...
together, and you can...
We've got a stunning mode of grunge. I don't know if Gemma's loaded it, actually. It might be on the website for you, but we've got a super wide. So they are 270 centimetres wide. That's 108 inches wide. So you will have some left over.
Yeah.
And that's what I've got for you, is a beautiful super wide. And it's mode of grunge in that blue, the beautiful turquoisey blue that's in that quilt.
Yeah.
So we've got one of those in. We've got a lot more on order. It's just the first one that's arrived, but that's what we've got coming for you. But Naomi, I will ask Gemma to load that one. So those of you that want to spread the cost, you can do so. We've also got like plain greys and stuff like that on a, I want to say 60-inch wide.
Yes, you would need double width for that.
Sew them together.
If you were going to order the 60-inch wide fabric, you would need 5 metres of that to give you plenty.
Yeah.
So you'd need to cut 2.5 metre lengths and join them together, salvage edge to salvage edge.
There you go.
And that would give you a...
Oh, we've
and
made
if
Josh
you do
blush.
join fabric, don't put the join in the middle. Put it 2/3 or 1/3 away from the edge, just because you tend to fold your quilt in half, and obviously that's a weakness in a seam there, that the more you fold it would weaken that sewn seam. So it's better to put the seam
Good thinking, Batman.
2/3 of the way, approximately. Don't go measuring it 2/3, but not dead in the middle. Just, that's a little thing that I've learnt over the years, that it just elongates the life of the backing fabric. Okay, so we've got the centre block, which is the one that we did first of all. You've only got one of those blocks. You may have made more because you liked it. It's entirely up to you. Then we're going to have the 8-pointed star either side of that. All of these blocks are 9-patch blocks. In saying that, we've got, you've got 1, 2, 3, 3 by 3, 9 patches. This one doesn't look like it is, but actually when you break it down, they are 9 patches. So you may want to take your blocks out and repress them, because if you've got all of the seams facing the same way, you might just want to press some of the seams into the middle so that when you come to join them together, they lock. It just gives you a little bit of seam matching. And then you've got your Harlequin, I think we called it Harlequin block. What did I call it? I don't think I did call it anything.
Joan, very quick question. How much wadding would they need for the quilt as you go method? Is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, pretty similar. When you do the quilt as you go method, you just, the same size as your block and then about 1 inch.
So 2.5 metres.
Yeah, I think 2.5 metres, particularly the extra wide that you've got. Is it 108 as well, the wadding?
I got really wide. Yeah, I got the widest I could.
Yeah, I think it's 108. So.
And Gary, there's a quick question. Did Yuki go across to Ireland? Because Carol wants one.
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. There you go, Carol. Yes, but there's only one left, I think, now, so you need to get in quick. But yes, they will trip it across the ocean for you. There we are.
So this is your centre row. Now
Stunning.
At this point, I'm not going to sew them together because I'm going to need to take some of these because I haven't made all of the blocks again.
Yeah.
I've got 2, sometimes 3 of some because I did the demo one and then I made it again. So with these blocks here, with your 8-point star, just have a look at this 4-patch here. Mine doesn't go round in a circle. I think I was intending to, but it didn't quite happen. And this one down here, the block faces the other way. That can happen. This is why I say lay it out so you can see it and just put them together one at a time.
That design choice.
Yeah, that happens. I meant that to happen. It's not when you put it together and then you look at it and you think, oh, okay. So you can have all of them facing the same direction so that when they come together, they look something. Or you could just twist the one so that they face inwards, and you might want to twist that one there, and then when you come to put this one in, you might want to twist it the other way. This is why I say lay all your blocks out, have a look at them. You might think, well, actually, no, I don't want that block there, I want it here.
Right.
It's entirely up to you, but this effect here with the 8 patches is what gives you that sort of semicircular effect. Circular effect here. It's sort of a circle.
Full moon, half moon,
yeah,
total eclipse.
So that's part of the effect of my design, but it's your quilt. If you want to change it around, that's totally up to you. But that's why I did that block there, to give that circular effect in the middle that you don't always see. And it's not easy to see there because the machine's in the way. But that doesn't matter. So the next row, your second row if you like, because this is the centre row. So I'm just going to move these ones down slightly. I'm just going to move that machine back just a fraction. There we go. Your next row has the 8-point star in the middle. And then we've got, this is like an Ohio star. And I don't know if we called that the Harlequin block. I can't remember what I named them now.
It's been a while. I mean, you think you did this a year ago, didn't you?
Yeah, well, actually, that one is more than a year ago.
Yeah. Which, bear in mind, I can't remember what I did last week. You know.
This block's slightly different because I remember on the show I hadn't brought enough squares. So this one is a different design to the other one.
It tells a story, Jane. It's fine. We've got another quick question. How many layers of fabric should we cut through at one time to keep the accuracy of the blocks? And does it depend on what type of block you're cutting or any other considerations? Go.
If you've got a brand new blade on your rotary cutter, you can cut through at least 6 layers of fabric. I know people that have cut through 8. But with a 45, diameter, 45mm diameter rotary cutter 6 is quite easy with a fresh new blade.
It's like new needles, isn't it, on your
Yeah.
machine? It's one of those things we all think we should do. Well, we should do more often than we do, and
Yes.
then when we do, we're surprised at what difference it makes, and wonder why we didn't do it earlier, and then repeat.
Yeah.
Basically.
There was a thread on one of the quilting groups I follow about putting a new needle in and how often, and everybody was saying, oh, when it breaks, or oh, I haven't changed mine for years. The professional, I wouldn't class myself as a professional, but every teacher I've spoken to is like, new project, new needle.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think your needle's fine or not, I have seen a microscopic image of a used needle, and it's horrible. There's all bits off it and barbs and all sorts of things like that. You're going to get the best quality from a new needle every time you have a new project.
If you look in my, Jane and I both have trolleys, and in my trolley I've got 2 packs of 100. I've got 200 needles so that I can change it every project.
Yeah.
And that's what I endeavour to do. Occasionally I forget, but that is now what I endeavour to do. That's
Yeah,
my promise to myself. And do you know what? For a sake of a quid or so,
scheme of things, needles aren't that expensive.
No.
And I think, you know, if you want the optimum out of your machine and out of your projects, getting the best finish, you want to use a new needle every time you start a new project.
So here's a question for everybody. Would you like me to stock the big boxes of like mega needles?
I think it's worth having because,
Okay, I'll get
you know,
some.
you might not get through them like Natasha and I do, but if you've got them and they're there, they're an investment, they're there. They're not going to go anywhere. They don't take up a lot of space and they're worth having.
And another quick question, and I'm happy to answer this. I need to buy new cutting mats for someone and wondered if we could tell us the difference in the self-healing mat compared to the hard surface mat, such as the June Taylor's. Right, self-healing cutting mat. That's the one that we have on the show today. And that is, I mean, we can show you that one there. That is a Creative Grid one. I am really torn as to which one I prefer now, because I do absolutely love the Creative Grid self-healing one.
Yes.
And the fact that all of my rulers line up exactly with the markings on this.
There's something else I noticed with the Creative Grid rulers on this mat. This mat's got, I've used other self-healing mats, and I've always thought, and I love this mat's got a different finish to it. And it wasn't till today that I realised it works with the gripper points on the mat.
Yeah.
So even with your other cutting mats, the Creative Grid's got the grippers on, but with their own mat, that's not, going anywhere. And then also the grids line up so that everything is exactly the same. So when I'm using the mat to help me cut, if, you know, I did some bag making, you can see the bags behind Jane. Yeah,
I was making those yesterday and the day before. And, you know, I was using the cutting mat, lining it up with my rulers, and it worked an absolute treat. So the self-healing cutting mat, you will cut into the mat and then it will, the gap will close.
It's made of all, it's a bit like a dartboard, but a finer thing. And it's all little fibres packed together, so that when you cut it, actually your blade is going through those fibres and then they put themselves back together.
Now
it does wear over time.
We came, and there is lots that you can do to prolong. We've got mat smoothers, we've got lint removers, and you can wash it with a warm water and a cloth, and that helps as well. I came away onto the June Taylor ones because we were doing such a level of cutting, and now we just use electric scissors, which is, you know, but we were doing an industrial amount of cutting, and we were cutting through the mats. Now you won't do that. We were cutting on the ½ meter mark on every single mat, and it you know, we were getting through mats.
And even the June Taylor hard surface mat, with the amount of cutting we were doing, it was still scoring through, wasn't it, eventually?
But the June Taylor one, being the hard surface, comes up to meet the blade, or that's the best way that I can describe it. Your blade will sort of sink into into this sort of mat, the self-healing one. But with the June Taylor one, it is a harder surface, so it kind of meets the mat. It meets the blade. I love my June Taylor one. And it's the one I always keep in the car to take to Ho Chanda with me. So because it's got the handle, it's much lighter. This is heavier to take. So they both have their pros and cons. I absolutely love them both. Sorry, Jane, we digress.
With both types of mat, you need to store them flat and keep them away from a heat source. So don't think, oh, I'll just slip it behind the radiator, because it will bow and it will warp. Don't put your coffee cup on it because you think, oh, it's a mat, it'll protect my table. it will warp the cutting mat. Any sort of heat source on this, any cutting mat will warp it. And when you warp it, you distort your accuracy with your cutting.
Yeah.
And it's hard to cut on when it's warped as well. Storing it not flat as well over time will bow it. Yeah. And again, that's difficult to get back. If it does bow, there are people, I've seen threads again on Facebook, warm bath of water just to warm it through, and then books on it and everything flat. And
yeah.
Lay it flat. But yeah, I think the better it's like any piece of equipment. It's a piece of equipment, look after it, treat it nicely, and it'll last you a long time. And yeah, we love our cutting mats. So we're back on the second row. We've got the 8-point star in the middle. These ones, again, when you come to put these together, just have a look at the orientation of the colour. I've got the dark colour facing north-south. Again, it's entirely up to you. You can turn it round. You might want to have that dark colour facing the other way. You might want to make it so that it twists all the way around, so each one just twists, the opposite corners face that way and the opposite corners face that way. It's yours. Have a look at it. See what you think. And then in the corners of that block, we've got the Friendship Star again. So we'd have 2 of those. And again, the Friendship Star has the 4 patch blocks running through it in a diagonal. And on mine, the diagonal faces towards the middle. So one's facing from bottom left to top right, and then the other one is from bottom right to top left. Again, this is why it's worth just spreading it out on your table, on your bed, wherever space you've got, and having a look at the blocks. It is a big quilt, so you're going to need quite a bit of space to have a look at that and see how that orientation is going to work for you. So that's row 1 and row 2. So we've got the centre row here. You're going to make, whatever way you make this block, whichever orientation you decide to have on it, you're going to make 2 the same, because this row of blocks is then put on this side. We've then got row 3, and this is where I have to start pinching blocks from the other rows. We've got the Ohio Star there. Let's move this down a bit. So we've got that's row 2, and then the row 3, you've got your Ohio Star Harlequin block. I can't remember what I've called it. And then we've got Friendship Stars again. So I'm just going to bring these ones over here. And again, it's the orientation of that 4 patch that goes across the diagonal. So on my quilt, you can see that carries on through to the top. Just gives it a line, and again that accentuates. We've got the circle going on here in the middle, which I don't know, we can't really see it, but it comes round like that. It's just an optical illusion, I think, in the overall effect of it, but you can just...
Do you want to show it on the big quilt, Jane?
I'm just about to see it. It's here, that circular shape,
yeah,
that forms that middle bit, and then these are the 4 patches that form that diagonal that are going through. Just gives that sort of central and gives it a squared border, if you like.
It's really cleverly put together, I have to say. It's beautiful.
I do think about these things, although, sometimes...
I don't doubt it.
The ladies
you sound surprised, some thought went into it.
And then we've got this very busy block in the corner, which I think this is the one I called the Harlequin block, I think, actually. And again, we've got this diagonal of 4 patch going through, which I've gone across the corner with, again, just to carry on that line going through. So row 3, this is our middle row, row 1, row 2, row 3. Again, all the 4 patch blocks going in towards the middle, and that, of course, again, sort of frames the whole thing. So have a look at it. Just make sure you've got that orientation going on. But again, you know, don't be frightened to have a little play with the blocks. There's one lady that's done it in beautiful purples, and she's done a different block for the cornerstone. She hasn't done the swirly one. She used a different block.
Oh, nice.
And she got hers together, and she showed me a picture of it, and it's just beautiful. It's her version of it, and it's lovely.
This is the thing, isn't it? I mean, these are serving suggestions, and I say this a lot about our instructions. They are serving suggestions. What you then do with it, don't feel bad if you don't do exactly the same thing. No. This is where your creativity comes in, and there will be those of you that, you know, this might be your first or second quilt, and you go, right, I want to make it exactly, because you don't trust yourself. But if you're a seasoned pro, you might want to put your own stamp on it. There might be a block that you love so much. You
might have liked one of the blocks more than the others and thought, oh, actually, I'm going to make 8 of that one, not 8 of the one that Jane suggested. It's your quilt. It can be put together as you like. If you've only made one of each block, if you've been following the block of the month and you've only made one, put sashing in between it and make it into a quilt like that. You know.
There's every opportunity to do it however you want.
You may have liked some of the blocks and none of the others, and you may have just made them into cushions. It's up to you.
All these options are there. Catherine says, when you say new project, new needle, would you change after just making a pouch or a small bag, say? I would change after a bag, yes, especially because of the layers.
Wadding,
So, for example, the bag behind you has got, it's like doing a quilt in effect, because there were layers that had to go through, and it's got cork. It's got different textures. So yes, I would after making, and I wouldn't say that was a huge bag, but yes, I would change it after that. A small pouch, I'd make a couple of pouches. And with the quilt, you know,
I would probably change my needle twice for a quilt this size. I would do the piecing with one needle, and then when it came to the quilting, I would change my needle.
Absolutely. If in doubt, change it.
Yeah. We've said this, haven't we? In the grand scheme of things, needles aren't very expensive, and you know, you're going to get the best effect from your work if you're using, you know, new equipment and all of that. So when it comes to joining the blocks together, as I said, you might want to have a look at how your seams are pressed. You might want to just press some of them the different way if you feel that locking your seams helps you. Pins are your best friend really when it comes to joining the blocks. You might want to trim off the ears if you've got some of them with ears on. If you're going to do that, just remember you've got your seam allowance.
So, Geraldine, not naming any names.
I mean, we've all done it.
Of course
when
we have.
Started, we was like, oh yeah, just
absolutely
trim it up level with the points. Just make sure. Let me do it with one with a darker one. That's that one there. You've got here, you need to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if you've got, I will do it with this one because it's got the bit sticking off. You can see this edge is slightly wobbly. It's not completely straight, and I would probably straighten that off. Now, all of the units that make up the blocks, so as I say, we've based it on 9 patches. All of these units should finish at 4 inch square, which means the ones at the side will be 4 1/4. Just remember that. Don't think, oh yeah, they're all 4 inches. I need to cut them down to 4 inches. You need them to be 4 1/4. So it's always a good idea to line your 4 1/4 inch mark up with that seam there. Line one of your horizontal lines up with your seam going horizontally, and just check. You can see on here that this seam here is quite narrow, and this one is non-existent here. But if I look at my block, I can see that it's not actually come right. So just give it a little tug, and you can always press it. If it looks like it's wobbly, you can press it. I'm not going to worry too much because there's an 1/8 inch there and a bit more. So that seam will work. But if I'm really worried about it, as long as I make sure that the 1/4 inch mark here and here hits that point on the star, I could quite happily, and then I'm looking at that, and that is 4 1/8 all the way along. What's happened is I've done some on my machine and some on the machine here, and the 1/4 inch, there's obviously a little difference between my 1/4 inch and the 1/4 inch I use here, and that's fine, because if I was doing it with a whole quilt with the same machine, my machine, it wouldn't matter because it would all fit together.
Oh, that's going to be the thing, isn't it? For everybody that's just bought the new NX7.
Yes.
Do they have to now wait to use it?
Yeah, wait until you don't do it halfway through a project.
You can do your quilting on
it. Just check it because it could be exactly the same.
You can always move the needle over. Gary can show us how.
Absolutely. Just saying, needle positions, we've got 32 needle positions, so we can line it up exactly how we want.
There we go.
You can just tweak it.
He will show us.
That does show you that sometimes 2 different machines can give you a slightly different 1/4 of an inch. And in the grand scheme of things, if you're using your machine for the whole project, it won't matter because it will all fit together.
Yeah,
it's only if you do half with one and half and another and then you come to put them together, there might be a discrepancy. I would trim that off there. I'd be quite happy as long as I've got the 1/4 of an inch here between those points. I'd be quite happy to trim that down. This needs a little bit of a press with a... Sometimes you just need to put a little bit of steam in your iron and just give it a little tweak just to pull it across.
Oh, now talking of things in your iron, I might have some exciting news at the end of the week for you guys.
Ooh.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just a case of trimming it off and just trimming off those ears and any extra bits. Usually it's just a little pile of fluff like that, and sometimes it's just even that. And sometimes you will have it and it will still go in slightly, but when you're lining up your blocks together, if I was putting these together, I would just make sure that they were lined up like that, and then when I came to seam it, that seam there would be the edge there that I would make sure it was on, and I know that it's going to be okay because it's more than 1/8 of an inch. If it's less than 1/8 of an inch, I do tend to worry a little bit then.
Right, that's your time to have a wobble.
Because you just think, oh, what have I done here? And it might be that you need to look at what you've cut and do it again, or you could always just sew a piece in. It's called a coping strip. It doesn't always work when you're doing a medallion quilt like this, but if you were doing one with sashing in between, you can always just sew another frame around your block.
Yeah.
And then put that in. And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look, if you do it the same colour as the sashing, it doesn't look out of place, or you can make it a feature and do it in a different colour, a darker colour or a brighter colour, and it looks like it was a border that was meant to be. Yeah, so that's, and then it's just a case of pinning it, making sure the points are where you need them to be. So if you've got 2 pieces here, like if we were joining the Friendship Star, let me have a look at this. The Friendship Star against the Harlequin block. If I can find it. This one. You've got 2 different types of triangle here. You've got the 8-pointed star triangle, and then you've got your 1/4 square triangle. What you're aiming for is at least the points meeting. So on the reverse side, let me do a close-up on this.
Oh,
Natasha,
always, yes.
you will always have where the seams cross each other, so you've got like an X marks the spot. So if you pop your pin in there where that 2 seam lines meet, when you turn it over, your pin will be in the top of the point of your star. And then if you place your pin in...
Now, can you just show us that, Jane? Because
yeah,
it's just got your hand.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Just about there. That's a good angle there. And so when you then place your other block on top, if you put your pin in through that point there, which is where the seam meets on the other side, they may be slightly different in height. You can see that slightly up.
Well, you would if, you know, down a bit, down a bit.
There we
go. Yeah.
You can see that there's a slight difference in the seam height. When you've got them together, you can just check that, and you might find that one point is higher than the other. And as long as they fit together and you've got it within your 1/4 inch seam allowance,
all's good.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's the overall effect of the joining of the blocks.
It's really easy to overthink, isn't it?
I think we get a little bit fixated on the 1/4 inch seam allowance.
You know, Claire's just gone, as long as it's more than quarter of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, just sew it. Don't worry about it, just sew it.
Yeah. I'm very much, we're not making it for a competition. We're making it for our homes or to give
there
as
are
a
no
gift.
competitions, are there, right now?
No. So you're not going to have a judge, minutely inspecting it for every little mistake that there may be in it. But in the grand scheme of things, when it's together, you're going to have those points just lined up beautifully and your seams lined up.
And
of
also
course,
there's so
here,
much to see in this quilt as well, that actually trying to find a fault in it, you're going to have to really look hard.
Yeah. You know, I know, as we were just saying, I know that this bottom block, that it's not going the same way, but
it's all right, we can't see that.
you can't see it.
We haven't pinned it up that way.
And even, in the grand scheme of things, even when it was on the bed, you probably wouldn't notice it straight away. It wouldn't leap out at you.
No.
And when you're sewing this, you've got all these marker points on your seam allowance. When you're sewing this one here, you've got the 2 seams that cross over there. So you want to just make sure you're inside that side of that point there. And you'll come across here and you'll just line it up and just make sure that it sort of fits together. Don't worry about what it looks like on the back, because you're not going to see the back of it. There's going to be a piece of wadding and a backing fabric on it.
It doesn't need to be beautiful that side, does it?
It doesn't have to be, precise. I think it's more important that it looks okay on the front.
Perfect.
It doesn't matter if one seam's 1/4 inch to start with and goes down to a 1/16. As long as it's together. If you've got a very thin seam and you're not too sure whether it's going to hold, put a bit of iron-on interfacing across the seam. That'll just hold those layers together and it'll just protect that bit of seam. So you'll be fine.
Fabulous.
So that's it really. Once you've got all of those together, then we can start putting on the borders, which we'll talk about next month, and the strips and everything. It's just take your time, lay it out, look at it, check it, make sure that you've got everything going in the right orientation.
And keep checking it.
And keep checking it.
And
Sew 2 blocks together at a time. So I would sew these 2 together on row 3, press them open, put them back, because it would be very easy to put that one like that and that one like that, and then sew that on, and then afterwards think, oh no, I just turned it
The
round.
other thing is, if you've got the K-Facet quilt wool, and I think we might have a little bit left. We've got some on a bolt in the warehouse, haven't we?
I'm
We've
sure
got a
we
little
have,
bit left.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit left.
I will just check with Gemma that it's actually loaded. Then that's the other way, so that you can step back and watch it and have a look at it.
Yeah.
And just double check. Hello, voice. Where's that gone?
It's disappearing.
And just do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Jane.
So yeah, have fun with it is the thing. I think don't over stress about it. Just enjoy the process of it coming together, and you will probably see different patterns than the pattern that I see in it.
One very last question: can you use quilter's tape, and what is the difference between double and single-sided tape?
Well, double-sided tape is like double-sided sellotape, isn't it? It'll hold it both sides together.
Is that kind of a form of basting then? Was that when you'd use it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will wash away. So yeah, you can use either really. Yeah.
So I generally only now stock the wash away quilter's tape. It is a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't bung your needles like the other was a false economy, because it just bunged your needles that I found.
Put sewing zips on.
But can you tell me how much of the 108 wide backing you'd need for the Seastorm quilt?
The 108, if you're quilting it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you'll only need 2 meters.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking it to long arm quilters, I would get 2.5.
Okay, there we go. Margaret says, lay it out in bed, move the cat. Put back the block, the cat was on, move the cat.
Yes.
You've done a lot of quilting,
Take it
haven't
to
you,
the
Margaret?
machine, sew the seam, put it back to move the cat. Yeah. Been there.
Half Pint's been banished today for
Like,
exactly that reason.
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Right, so next month, as long as all the fabric is in, we will be, normal service will be resuming.
Yes.
Now, we knew that this was going to be a shorter show, and then, as luck would have it, Gary was around and about and available to come in and talk us through the NX7s, because I know now a lot of you will have new NX7s winging their way to you. Some will get them imminently. Oh yes, thank you. Yeah. And for those of you that are wondering what the backing fabric looks like that we have in stock, and like I say, we've got a lot more of other shades of blue on order. This is the 108 backing fabric. So when I say 108, that's not 108 centimeters. That is 2 meters 70.
Yeah, this is folded into
4. Yeah.
So you've got, that's half the width. Well, it's 108 inches.
Yeah.
Which is just over 2.5 meters wide. So, you know, there's plenty there, and this is the Moda Grunge, which has got the beautiful.
The closest that I could get to the colourways that are in the quilt. Look at that. I just think that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful turquoise, and it's got a bit of green in it and a bit of the deeper blue.
So all the colours that are in your quilt are in there. So if you want a backing fabric that is going to complement but not be identical, then this is the one. I couldn't get hold of it. I don't know if they even do a 108 backing fabric in the fabrics that we've used for the quilt. So this was was what I found. And when I saw it, when the rep came and I saw it, I was like, that's the one.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it will complement all the colours in the front of your quilt as well.
All the colours.
Yeah.
All the colours. Thank you. And thank you, Gemma, for finding it, bringing it in. Lovely. So we're going to have a little change around, a quick disinfect of mics and stuff and all that hoo-ha, flim-flam, flippery that we have to do. Because we don't have a third mic. We don't often have more than one guest, do we?
I was going to say, it's not very often, is it, that we have more than one.
Jane, do you know how to mute your mic?
Yes.
So that we don't hear it? There we go. That'll be it. That backing is amazing, says John Cole Morgan. Love that. Oh, in shouty capitals.
Let me just pop this on the table.
Oh yeah, you can have a little look at this.
This is what we're working.
Good thinking.
Michael,
so
circling in my back pocket.
You guys have seen the Lisa Chanda fabrics, but have you taken note of the beautiful gum leaves? Because this will be next week's.
Sorry.
It's all right. This will be next week's quilt. Is this half done? Yeah, it's half done, isn't it? Pretty much. And it uses 3 different shades of the gum leaf, some applique in there. It's really beautiful and such a completely different feel to some of the more feminine florals that she does. I love this. I think it's striking and gorgeous. I kind of want to make it into a screen. That's what I'd really like to do with this. But this is what's going to be coming next week. Yeah. Oh, Diane says, I'm regretting not joining Block of the Month. We will be starting a new one after this, Diane. So just hold that feeling and join next time, and then you won't have that feeling. John says, Lisa Chanda, look at that. It's amazing. Yeah, and that's just the half of it. So we wanted to bring you something that was a very different feel. These might have been fabrics that you might possibly have overlooked or not quite known what to do with when you get them. And so we wanted to bring you something that was a beginner's quilt that really packs a punch. It's got a lot of impact, this quilt. I absolutely love it. It's completely different to anything else we've brought to air quilt-wise. So we wanted to bring you that. So that will be next week's project. John says, still cannot stop stroking that fabulous book of Kaif's. Utterly divine, just the best book ever. It is beautiful, and if you want a signed copy, please do grab it while you can. At the moment, we have stock of it. How long that'll last, I don't know. But we do have stock of it. It is a really beautiful one. I sent my mum a copy, and she said how lovely it was to actually listen to the interview and have the book there to look through and go through. Yeah, it's a really beautiful, it's a coffee table book. It's utterly stunning. So yeah, there we go. That's that. I can see a machine moving into there we go. Let me give you this. There you go, Gary. That is your shot.
And have we got a voice to go with it as well now?
Well, I don't know.
Well, this is
Did you take it off mute?
Yes.
I think I have
Ah,
done.
there we
I have
go.
my voice.
Everybody, it's Gary
Here we go.
DeBrick.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much for
Wonderful.
coming
Thank
in.
you for inviting me. It's great to be here. It's been a long time.
Over a year.
Well, this is it. Very much so on
So
there.
you were one of our very first guests.
Was indeed, yeah, and it was that long. Yeah, because
it was February.
It was the year of February, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Surprising, obviously, with what's happened over the last year, we're all a little bit. What has gone on? Where have we been?
Yeah, but you have been busier than ever.
Oh, it's just absolutely brilliant. Well, as you know, obviously everybody's indoors at the moment.
Yep.
We've all had the lockdown.
Yep.
We've all. Last year was nice. We had a bit of a nice summer. The start of that first lockdown, we enjoyed that. But then as time went on, we just needed things to do.
Yeah.
Sewing, quilting, patchwork, knitting, crochet, all of that
I think
side.
they've been a lifesaver for so many
absolutely on there.
people.
So it's been absolutely brilliant in that way. Obviously, two sides of it. One thing that's been fantastic is because of people then starting sewing.
Yeah.
Also being at home as well, where I believe now a new generation is coming into sewing.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
where I found a generation missed sewing, certain age groups, and I'm going to say it's not far off my age group, may have missed sewing. So youngsters then come into it, and then we're being taught by the grandparents.
Yeah.
But we have found during lockdown as well, where the mothers and fathers have been involved. So that mid-generation has now come into it. So it's expanded it
I
tremendously.
think there was that generation where all of a sudden clothes could be bought far more easily.
That's
you know,
right,
after
yeah.
the war, bit of a while after the war. You know, when clothes rationing and everything else stops, and you start to be able to buy things, it's that generation.
That's right.
That sort of miss. My mum doesn't sew. She knits, but
Yeah.
she doesn't sew.
No,
and
same as
also
my mum
her
as
mother
well.
did. You know,
Yeah.
her mum did, so she didn't need to. Whereas my grandmother then had the time to teach me.
Yeah.
So it skips a generation.
And that's exactly the same here
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, on there. But now, obviously, with more time, spending more time at home with the children and
Yeah.
things like that, it's bringing a lot of that. And I'm saying it's not just sewing; it's cooking as well. It's that home utility. It's what we all need to survive at home.
Of course
so
it
it's
is,
been
and
brilliant.
you're just not taught it. You're just not taught it at school.
Well, again, is unfortunate as we know with the curriculum now in a lot of schools, they have taken away the sewing side of it as well, and obviously on that, so your basic home skills are becoming harder and harder to learn somewhere.
Yeah.
And as we know, obviously, all the classrooms are closed down at the moment, so it's hard to give that one-on-one tuition now, even throughout the shops as well.
So I think it does fall to us to educate.
Very much so. Yeah.
And in educating, we've got questions for you, Gary.
Brilliant.
But Adele says, "Morning, Gary. Please tell me everything about the machine."
Excellent. Yeah.
She's brought it this morning. She's super exciting. But you see, this is it. So Adele is someone who sews nearly every day.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a workhorse.
Very much so.
We've used this every single day for hours on end. This machine has been an absolute workhorse for us. And it's absolutely stood up to it completely. Now,
Brilliant.
Viewers will know the last couple of weeks we've had a rattle.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Tell us about the rattle, Gary.
Well, first of all, what we're going to do about the machine to start off with, and then it's sort of with first of all the NX series of Kiri, as we all say, Kiri actually stands for beautiful.
Yes.
And obviously, looking at the machine, it is in the eye of the beholder whether you actually find it beautiful. But for me, and obviously, which a lot of people are recognising now, it's the beautiful stitch it produces.
Yes.
So,
yes.
and that's whether we're going quilting, patchwork, soft furnishings, like bag making, anything like that. It's just giving us the flexibility to expand our sewing needs, but also sewing fabrics as well. So we are now using tougher fabrics, awkward fabrics. So, but then when we're going through, like for bag making, as an example, where we're doing handles, straps, we're going through much heavier materials, and we're finding a lot of machines are struggling a little bit now to take that. Where with the Juki side, and we're going on to the NX, but with the part industrial feed systems, the industrial technologies, we concentrate very much on a hard working machine.
Absolutely.
Rather than all swings and roundabouts, which is nice. The toys are nice there to play with, but it's not the essential.
It's not your bread and butter,
No,
though, is
not
it?
at all.
And actually having the machine that does the basics well makes everything that you do
Well, it does the basics well.
easier.
Exactly. You're more likely to then expand and do more with the machine. Where some
Exactly.
people go out and buy big flash machines, and then they try and do some of the basic sewing, which doesn't work as well. So then I think, and then they get put off using the rest of the machine. So this way, at least they're getting a machine they can feel confidence with. Then when they get on it, they know that it's going to sew. It's not going to give you the problems. Also, it's then, because of that side of it, is then going to allow you to then expand your type of sewing, and then less problems gives us more time.
Well, exactly.
We all want more time, don't we, on there?
That's exactly it. That's exactly
Absolutely.
it. Now, Gary, for those people that don't know you, you were an engineer first and foremost. So that's what I love about you, is that you come at it from a not, isn't this machine pretty, although we have just said it means beautiful.
Yeah, this is it, absolutely.
I'll gloss over that bit. But you do come at it from an engineering standpoint and viewpoint, which I've always found fascinating.
That is one of the main things for myself coming into it. I started, I've been in the business now over 30 years.
Yeah.
So when I first started in it, I was cleaning the floors, emptying the bins in the workshops, and you learn, you sit by the engineer who's been there sort of 100 years, and you learn. But nothing was done computerised, nothing was done by reading, everything was hands-on. It was there. I was trained by one of the best on there. And then starting off on the industrial side as well as the domestic side, I got to learn big differences in quality.
Yeah.
Why domestic machines are built some ways, why industrial machines are built another way. And obviously, as we all know, an industrial machine, you buy it to work.
Yeah.
It's a tool to use on there. A domestic machine is a tool to have fun on. But also some people then want more out of a domestic machine, and you've got different levels of quality in there, and that's what I learned as an engineer, to realise you can practically get a sewing machine to do anything, but it's how you treat that machine, of being very careful. And the less you want to look after the machine, then the better quality you need the machine to be. Because again, you can't go out and buy a budget machine and expect it to look after itself or cope with the different fabrics.
And that is so true. And what we wanted to do today, because of the sound now, and this is the great thing about you, I rang you and said, Gary, it's making this noise, and over the phone you're like, well, it's this and this and this, and when you came up today, and you said it was safe to continue using as it was, so that was fine. It's just, it was annoying me. That was
well,
all.
It does it, and it's great that you recognise the sound. That to me, and I think that's what I'm going to mention as well, the number one, when you're using a machine, and it's just not just a sewing machine, it's probably when you're in your car or that, when you work with something, sometimes sounds you don't recognise because you're living with a sounds.
I'm just giggling
because...
because...
what have you done?
Well, no, my very first car, when it used to go wrong, I just used to turn the stereo off. I didn't have to listen to the noises. And I would, if you know, whenever you smell like petrol or burning or something, I'd look around to see if there was a car that was older than mine.
I would blame a car next to me or something like that.
And hope it
never
was
be
theirs.
my car. Until you sit in the lay-by thinking, that probably was my car, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I've learnt that. My lesson is learnt. So the lesson is to not to just ignore. You will get used to the sound of your machine. You'll get used to how it sounds. And when it sounds different, it has been very tempting, because it's still continued to stitch beautifully, to ignore it. And
that is what a lot of people do as well. And we're all sort of guilty of doing it. If something's working, don't touch it. Yeah. If it's that adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But sometimes you then just got to sort of pre-plan ahead, especially with its machinery that you know is creating a lot of fluff. It's a lot of build-up. It has got consumable items and parts on there, and very much you were saying about the needles. I've got to say, probably 90% of problems I have over the phone or sort of people coming in can be solved by a new needle regular on there. And then when it comes down to needles as well, I find it so important to have a brand new sharp needle, which may be the wrong size rather than an old right size needle. On there. So if you're using, say, thick fabrics and you're using a blunt size 100 or 16 needle, it's going to bang, bang, bang if you go through it. If you change that to a brand new size 80 or 12, it will probably purr through it. But obviously the 80 will then blunt quicker, is because you're using a finer needle on thick fabrics. But sometimes using a finer needle is actually easier on the machine, because again, the less... It's going to go through more easily. The less diameter of piece of metal you've got trying to force through, obviously the less strain on the machine there's going to be. And the big thing I do find with needles, and it's the same as anything in life, is quality.
Right.
Somebody would look at a needle and think, a needle is a needle. It's a straight piece of metal which you put in your machine. Very, very not. Obviously, qualities of metal, very different on there. And it's also the differences between, there's some really nice quality build, I'm not going to say names, but German needles out there.
Yeah.
And that German metal it's made of is very, very strong. And there's some cheaper Chinese needles out there as well. And to me, a big difference of telling how good a needle is, if you get hold of a needle and you can bend it without it breaking, it's not a good needle.
Oh,
because
okay.
the metal is then soft.
Right.
So obviously any bendy metal, but if you get hold of a needle,
Bending my needles now.
you bend it and it breaks,
Yeah.
you know it's a good quality metal.
Right.
So,
okay.
Because what you don't want in your machine, and I think is what may have happened to something in here, is if your machine bends a needle, and the machine is, and the needle's obviously still working, that needle is going to be hitting things.
Yeah.
Because it's technically putting out a timing, it's moved the needle positions. So if your needle just breaks, you've got no damage inside the machine. Oh, I've recognised that, bang, change the needle. So it's actually safer to have a broken needle.
And it's funny you don't think that, do you? Because thinking back now, I know exactly what it was and when it happened.
Yeah.
And I hit. There was a pin that I'd forgotten to take out, and it hit the pin. And obviously it didn't snap the needle, it must have bent it.
The needle,
so would you like to tell everybody what happened to my machine, Gavin? Why has it been making funny noises for the last couple of weeks?
For the last little while. So it's just a little bit of maintenance on the machine as well. And the great thing with the NX series, no screwdrivers to worry about.
Nope.
So it's got the pop-off needle plate on there. So we have got obviously a lever tool that will then just pull up.
Well,
like
do you want to move it across? If
right,
I move
so
that
let's
there,
see.
then...
Yeah, we'll get onto the camera on
So
there.
what we thought
I'm
we
going to
would...
move the cutting board so it sits flat onto the table.
Yeah. What we thought we would do today is, because I know a lot of you have bought this today, we're going to give you hints and tips, because stuff you don't necessarily... I can move that angle, don't worry.
Yeah.
What you won't necessarily always see on shows, because they want you to buy the machine, is they'll show you all the whistles and bells, but they won't necessarily show you... Where do we need it?
So basically, without the here.
Hang on. I need to come a-wandering. There.
That's it.
They won't necessarily show you how to do the day-to-day looking after your machine, which is what we're going to do.
And in saying what we were saying before, where if you just live and you just feel the machine's not right and you carry on using it, obviously solving something early can prevent bigger problems later on as well. But also just say frustrating of having to work with a slightly noisy machine, or in this instance sometimes your machine can miss stitches, skip stitches, etc. that way. So this will solve a lot of issues on here. And it's something which you should do with any sewing machine. Again, not just our machines, is because any machine, obviously using the amount of fabrics, you will get lint build-ups, and as we know, waddings and things like that. So if you build quilts, will build up a lot more lint than other. So, but it's very, very simple. And again, as I sort of said before, the nice thing about it, you haven't got to fiddle around with tools and screwdrivers. And even though it's a computerised machine, peace of mind. It's not actually connected. I haven't got to unplug anything. I haven't got to plug anything in. So it's no worrying about, oh, if I take something off, or am I going to plug it back in wrong? Because you can't do that at all. So just a peace of mind there. It is designed to do this. So on that, I'm just going to take the needle plate off. So lift the needle plate.
Should you lock your screen or
on
anything?
There. Two things on that. One thing, you can lock your screen if you want to, but as soon as my presser foot's up, then the machine won't run anyway, so I feel safe in my hands. But as soon as I've actually taken the needle plate off, the machine will set itself, and we can see on the screen it's come up and it's recognised I've removed the needle plate.
It does give you good information on the screen. That's the beauty of it on the machine with this. It will tell you what it can and can't see and do.
It's very difficult to do something wrong. The machine really won't allow you to do something wrong. And as far as the safety feature goes, as soon as the foot's up, as soon as the plate's off, I know that needle's not going to move. Doesn't matter how much I press start, stop. I know it's safe that way.
I use the lock button on this a lot because I was explaining to you, Captain Small likes to help. She likes to sit in here and she'll see my foot going up and down on the pedal pedal, and then she wants to help.
Naturally
She
wants to
put
play as well.
her foot on there.
Yeah.
So just for my own safety, not hers necessarily, because she can't actually reach the desktop, but for my own safety, if I'm just rearranging something on the machine, I will lock it.
Yeah.
So I know I can safely move it without Captain Small sitting there and pressing the
And have to
footer.
worry about anything being pressed at
Yeah,
all
yeah,
on
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And also the nice thing, once you've got the screen locked, obviously we've got our machine in front of us. We're holding bits and using obviously quilts, big bits of fabrics, and we're wafting it around. There's always a chance we can touch the screen with it and we haven't realised. So obviously if it changes something, obviously dials can move. I'm not just talking our machine
Yeah,
as well,
yeah, yeah.
obviously
Any
any machine
machine.
that way. So the lock facility on there is useful for many different ways.
I've not had it on another one. I've never had it on another machine, and
Yeah.
I've
To be fair, the only times, again, the industrials have...
used it far more than I ever imagined.
And a lot of people say, because you've never had it, you've
Yeah.
probably missed it, but you probably thought at times, oh, why did it do that? Why did it do this? If you had it, you probably would have used it, but not had that. And again, the safety features there was born from on the industrial side, because obviously once you've got an industrial machine set, you want to lock it into place, and that's it. You don't need to touch it again until that completes run again.
Yeah.
So even if you're then leaving your machines, other people are not going to come along and touch it. We even first developed on there where you actually had to put in a code to unlock the machine. On there. For domestic machines, you don't need to do that generally because it's your own machine. But to stop other people changing your machine, yeah, we did have coded systems as well. So with that, again, full instructions on there. A little bit of a question I've been asked a couple of times. When you put the lock on, I literally just press the lock button. But to take the lock off, I literally press the lock and hold it for 3 seconds, and the lock comes off. So that is a question I have been asked a couple of times, actually.
When I first got it and I couldn't work that out, it didn't occur to me. I just turned it off and on.
And that's it. Just you can do that, but no, you can just press and hold it for 3 seconds, and then that will come off. So no problem there at all. So. But what I also, and we talked about the needle and the safety feature, anytime I will go in and service the machine, clean the machine out, rule of thumb, I would always take the needle out anyway,
right.
Is because then I would just naturally change it. And to be fair, if it might not even be that old, but just while you're giving your machine a service,
you may just
new needle is part of a service, so then
right.
I would just do that as a rule of thumb on
Okay.
there. So I've taken the needle out, the bobbin case. It is designed to come out, and it does come out quite easily, but once you get the angle right.
Oh, no, see,
So-
this was, I couldn't.
That's it. A lot of people are
Yeah.
afraid to give it that extra pull on there, 'cause especially when it's your new machine on there,
Yeah.
or see, going up to this expensive machine, you don't want to start pulling things around thinking, should I be doing that or not? So the way to take the bobbin case out is you've got the front of the bobbin case, the silver spring, and then you've got the black part with a little silver screw in as well. So it's just like at 12 and 6 o'clock. Using my thumb and forefinger, that's the bit I would then hold, like so.
At the
so I'm
front,
just
6
pinching it
o'clock.
at the front, that's it. So my finger's actually into the bobbin well, where
Yeah.
the bobbin would sit, and then just pinch it. And then from there, using the hand wheel, I can twist it back and forward, only slightly. I'm not going at a full rotation on there. And then I can give it a little wiggle, so then that will then just pop out.
I did not know that.
On
That's
there.
so much easier.
So this
I
is
had
it.
to go and get Gemma with her beautifully manicured long nails to get it out
That's
for
just
me.
a good help, yeah. The reason the earlier ones, and it's again with some of the machines now, the bobbin case is so easy just to pop in and out. The problem is with that, if you get too much vibration or you get
It
a
pops
loop
in
of
and
thread,
out.
it pops out.
Yeah.
And then instantly you would end up breaking, bending needles, stabbing bobbin cases.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to point out, which we know on this one, which is starting to make that little bit of a noise.
Yeah.
So if a needle just breaks, there's less chance of it actually doing damage because you've recognised it, and then you would change the needle. If a needle bends, then obviously this is where the needle can then start doing damage to the inside of the machine. First of all, you've got what they call the outer hook, which is the metal part sat inside your machine. So on here, if you do get any broken needles, or just rule of thumb, when you clean the machine out, because taking the bobbin case out, you'll get fluff underneath, so I would clean out the fluff from underneath, and then I would just run my finger around the inner hook. When I'm doing this point of the hook is like a needle. Do not put your finger on it, because it's very, very sharp that way. So when you are running it round, just obviously make sure you're aware of that hook, and then all I'm doing is just feeling for any imperfection on there to see if the needle has hit it. Very happy it's very smooth. So to me, if you've got a little scraping noise, I've nailed it down. It's not on the outer hook, so it must be on the inner hook, which is then the black bobbin case of what it's also known as well. And then first thing I did notice on here.
Oh yeah, do you want to pop that on the mixture?
Right.
Close up.
On here, this is
if you lift it up and just show us on, can you get it in that?
Into here. So how well are we gonna see on here? Because you've got the outer ridge on here. Again, I'm just going to run my thumb around the ridge, and that's where actually it sits with the outer hook. So what has happened here, I don't know how well we can see it, we have got a needle just at the edge of my thumbnail. There is a needle hole, so a needle has bent and then stabbed through it, and because of that it's caused a little burr. So if that holes are actually on the edge and you have just got a burr, what we can do is just get some emery cloth, a little nail file or something like that, and just smoothen it off. So we're just taking the burr away. If we find it's actually damaged the outer hook, so where the actual points are on it, again just get that lined up, then that's taking it too far, and then by then you would probably need to have a new bobbin case, because this is which hooks the thread. So if there's damage there, then it's never going to stitch correctly. But on the bobbin case, if the hole or the needle damage is then further in and not on the edge, we can then just polish it out. So that's easy enough to do. So literally I have scraped that off early, and again we look underneath as well and we can see. So we can scrape that off, and therefore we've got a perfect flat surface. So there's no damage there at all whatsoever. That's perfectly smooth. And then I haven't got to worry about any replacement bobbin cases at all. So from there, now I've got the bobbin case out, just a personal thing on here. What I would do is just get a piece of kitchen roll, tissue, anything like that, and then put a drop of oil on, because the oil will act like a magnet. So then from there, then I would wipe around the inside of the machine. One thing, obviously the oil on there will pick up any fluff, any dust at all, but also it will just leave a nice coating around the hook as well. So you're not actually lubricating it, you're just giving it a coating, because of the cleaning aspect. You're going to have no fluff, so it won't mat up at all.
So we've just started stocking machine oil, and it wasn't actually for the sewing machine, weirdly enough, because in my head I was like, this machine doesn't need oiling. And then I spoke to you and I was like, oh no, actually it does. But it was actually for the new scissors that we're stocking.
It. The electric scissors, anything like that. Because it was for the
electric scissors, but also with our new scissors, they've got the nuts and bolts on it, so they are ones that will be taken to bits they are ones that will last generations.
Right.
So, and they do, in their part of their care system, they do say oil that nut and bolt.
Yes, indeed.
On a monthly basis, wipe the oil down the blade, and that is just going to be part now of my general care. And when I do that for my scissors, I'm going to do it for my machine as well. And just get into that rhythm of doing it. Because actually we've all paid a lot of money for these things, and let's actually look after it.
That's it, absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, you get a lot of people, you say you can go out and you go and buy, you've got obviously a brand new machine here, you spent a lot of money on it, and then some people just use it, sort of abuse it, being a sewing machine, thinking it doesn't actually need the maintenance sometimes. You go out and you can go and buy a second-hand car, and you may have it then serviced. So you bought, say, a car at less money. It's still got mechanical moving parts in there, which you need looking after. Yeah. And so, as you said, if you do it regular, it will take you a lot less time. You get used to doing it as well. So it becomes a matter of course. I
think it is part of there is a fear.
Oh, very much so.
And especially almost the more you spend, the more fearful it becomes in a way.
That's it. The longer you leave it on there thinking, I just don't want to touch this now, but very much peace of mind. I am, and 5 of my engineers are with me as well on the other end of the telephone. You can sit in front of your machine, you can give us a ring, and we'll actually just talk you through a step by step.
And you actually mean that, don't you? That's not just lip service. You guys actually mean it. Yeah. Because here's the thing, if people do that and they do ring the Juki helpline and they will get through to you and the other engineers,
Yep.
actually that saves you then having to send that machine back.
Oh, absolutely. I would recommend it's again, I'm not just going to talk about with Juki on this side, it's any new sewing machine product really. It's because it's new. You may have been sewing, the amount of times I've had, you've been sewing for 30 years, it must be the machine, it can't be me. But I will automatically say every machine is different.
Yeah.
So even though we've all been doing something for a long time, when we come to a new tool, there's always those slight little differences on there.
A new car takes a while getting
new car,
used to.
just little things in
Absolutely.
different
Yeah.
places. So
Yeah.
you know how to drive, you know how to sew, but you've just, with that item, then we can change
The
slightly on there.
nuances.
Yes, exactly it.
Yes.
So I would always recommend any queries, questions, doesn't matter how small or big it is, it's always worth picking up the phone. Again, behind, even though all the shops are closed at the moment, obviously behind of our
guys are still
classrooms,
there.
that's all closed as well. But we are still there. We're working behind the scenes. So obviously our warehouses
Little elves.
the little elves, very much so in there.
Now,
Yeah.
Anne says she was reading about a blind hem foot for the overlocker. Does Juki do one?
Yep, they do two.
Okay.
Yep, they do a light and heavy.
Okay.
Again, with most blind hem feet on overlockers, they do have to be practiced on there.
Yeah.
The lightweight blind hem one, to be fair, I am obviously honest when I say all these things because I know I'd see you at an exhibition if I'm not and you come back to me.
Yeah.
The lightweight one, on any overlocker, I'm not just talking to you, because of the nature of the way it forms stitches, it has to catch every single stitch.
Yeah.
Unlike a sewing machine or a filling machine, because a lot of people when they see an overlocker and think, oh, it can do blind hemming, they automatically think it comes more like a filling machine.
Yeah.
And a filling machine is the technical name for a blind hem machine. It does that one job and one job only. Where an overlocker with a blind hem attachment on it is still an overlocker. So it has to catch every stitch. So on fine fabrics, it will leave a ridge.
Yeah.
So I would personally say, oh, you will get a much better finish out your sewing machine than you
Right.
would do out of your overlocker on fine fabrics. But medium heavyweights, curtains, etc., then yes, the blind hem attachment is really good.
Okay.
So that's
Perfect.
the two ones I would say.
Yeah.
The heavy
Yeah,
one
yeah.
definitely, lighter weight one, little bit sort of swings and roundabouts.
Perfect.
So yeah, on that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
No
Right.
problem.
Okay.
So and then the nice thing, I see with the NX series as well, I'm just going to take the presser foot off. I can then just lift the feed dogs up as well, so that just goes underneath, because obviously I can change the machine into a straight stitch machine. So once I've taken those bits off, it just leaves it a little bit more exposed inside. So that means I know with bigger bits of fluff. So we've got a little cleaning brush.
Right. So Gary, can we get our little handheld hoovers in there?
Very much so, yeah.
That's okay to do.
So you've got your little cleaning brush. The only thing I've got to say, which we have noticed lately with handheld vacuums, and then they've got the extension little tube on, like the straw tube,
Yeah.
where people are just getting too ferocious poking that into the machine. Obviously,
Oh, I don't have that sort of attachment.
on there, so
Not
we
a tubey one. Like, I've
on
got
there.
A
Sometimes you can get
narrowish
a
one,
little
but
narrow
not-
one, but
but not
sometimes
really.
now there is that little adaptation now to
Oh,
go on. But
really?
you can only really get them for vacuums, which you can turn down, not
Right.
just because obviously it comes quite powerful. And even though the needle plates, the feeds is not connected to anything, there is still electronics in there. There's still movement. There is still wires, there is still timing things, so anything
So
stabbed
not-
in
yeah,
there
don't-
is
don't
not
do that.
going to be good.
No.
So there's two ways around that. One thing, yes, get the vacuum and you just brush it over the top of the machine
Mm-hmm.
rather than getting the extension tube which then you poke inside the machine.
Yeah.
Or what I can also show you on here, and it is something which I've talked through to customers before on there, is actually taking the bottom off.
Now,
So-
this is terrifying. Show us.
And this can be surprising sometimes. So I'm taking obviously the needle plate off, I've removed the feed, I've removed the bobbing housing, I've removed as much as I can. Obviously no screwdrivers involved in any of that whatsoever.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah,
a
yeah.
lift out maintenance part. So what I'm now going to do, and I would advise at home when we do this, is to switch your machine off. Obviously I'm going to leave the machine on, well I know it's safe anyway because it's not going to work, but also because of the natural lighting it will help you see at home. So I'm just going to tip the machine back, and I am just going to prop it up. So I'm just using your pot.
Odeco,
Your
yeah,
Odeco
I mean,
pot there for
very
it, just
useful,
to
right?
hold it onto there. But if you want it more sturdy, again, a lot of time you just roll up a piece of fabric and stick that behind it.
Okay.
And then with this, it's going to be a bit more difficult to see. You can see one of the screws here. I've sort of got my finger on, but there's actually another screw further here. So there is just the 2 screws. And what we can do is we will just undo those. So you get the little tool to do that with, or if you have a more comfortable screwdriver, you can use that as well. So just gonna.
You see, it sounds really daft, doesn't it? But I don't dare use stuff that didn't come with the machine. To do it. As you saying, just use a different one. Oh, are we allowed?
That's exactly it.
Are we allowed? Do we have permission to use something that's not? It's silly, isn't it? It's just. That's in my makeup that I like. Oh well, I'm not sure I'm allowed to do
Well,
that.
to be fair, if you stick by that, you can't really go wrong. But myself as an engineer, I do like to experiment and to play. So
It's whatever's to hand, right?
It's finding, yeah, this is it. Not necessarily always the right tool for the job, but just a tool that will do the job. So all I've done is I just loosen those 2 screws off, like so, and then this bottom plate here will literally just pull off like so. So I've pulled that, and we can see now this is not too bad again as the age, but you have automatically got fluff build up inside in here. So you've got thread, you've got fluff, and if you do end up breaking needles, 9 times out of 10, this is where the broken bit of needle will be as well.
Because I always worry about where it goes, and if that's going to be clunking around all over the shop.
Absolutely, and a lot of people think, oh, has it got stuck into some gears somewhere? Is it somewhere it shouldn't be? So if you have broken any needles, or you've dropped the pin inside your machine, which does happen as well, we've made it very easy just to undo the screw. And again, it's not connected to anything at all. So it's easy, 2 screws, and that then just pops off.
Amazing.
And then the reason I would also do that is because what you can do is turning the machine back up again. Now, through the top, obviously having no bottom on there, I can now, which is I think is one of the safer ways of doing it, is get one of the air canisters. So like the computer cleaning air canisters.
Yeah.
Because now there's no bottom on here. And what I don't want to do, I'm not blowing it right, so I'm not blowing it into the machine. Obviously, I want to blow it left, so I'm blowing it out of the machine here.
Right. I mean left.
In left, right, which
Okay,
actually in
left.
the workshop, and I forgot to bring it with me, we actually use an oversized bicycle pump.
Oh,
It's like a big bicycle pump we
Yeah.
use on there. Obviously, you can get little compressors as well if you've got one of those in your room. Or now you say the air canisters, which you use for cleaning your computers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Then all you do is just take it. I haven't got one of those with me, so I'm just going to give it a little blow in there. And if you can see straight away, you saw a little, I'll do that again, I'll do it a bit harder.
Fluff.
You
Oh no,
watch-
it don't, it's
watch the
embarrassing.
You can see bits of thread, fluff come through, but at least you're blowing it out of the machine, not in the machine.
Oh, the shame.
And you'd be surprised at how often that happens as well. That really does. And especially as you know, you're sewing nylon, that all day. You're not going to produce a lot of fluff. If you're sewing quilting, fluffy fabrics, fleeces and that, you're going to create a lot of fluff on there.
When my other machine came back to you guys for a service, one of the engineers, is it Nigel? Is it no?
Neil.
Neil, that's
Sorry.
it. I knew it began with an
We
N.
got our Neil.
And he said to me, he said, "What have you been sewing that's sticky?" And of course, I spray based my quilts.
Yeah. And that is not good, It's because, again, it may dry to a certain degree, but once it's on fluff and goes in, it will stay sticky.
And of course I
underneath
hadn't,
on
so
there,
the build-up of that,
Yep.
so I'm going to have to be super careful and just have a real good clean if I want to use that.
Yeah, again, even mentioned before, and you buy like sticky tapes and for your quilting, where some people just use a sticky tape and not realising how much it gums the needle up.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then eventually, obviously, can then create more fluff. It catches. So, yeah, using the right size sticky tape, there's a reason why it's a little bit more expensive, because it's designed to sew through, so it doesn't gum up.
Yeah.
And again, when you are using your sprays, be a bit careful of it. At the end of the day, it's a sewing machine with moving parts. They don't like to be stuck up or sort of glued up at all on there.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
But at least by doing that, again, it prolongs you having to have it serviced every 12 months, 2 years, 3 years. You can keep, with something like this, keeping it clean, regularly looked after,
Yeah.
every 5 years for domestic use at least on there.
You see, this is it. I mean, we have looked after this machine and we've made sure that it's been this has been serviced 2 or 3 times this year.
And you are using it business
All the
use.
time, yeah, so it's
Exactly
different.
It's a different. If I have people and I'm supplying these to schools, I'm
Yeah.
supplying them to colleges, I'm supplying them to businesses, I would recommend every 12 months because within businesses, you know,
Yeah.
you've got to work out, right, this is my running costs.
Yeah.
And servicing this should be part of that running cost
Yeah,
on there.
sure.
And obviously with schools, just a matter of course, is obviously they have their machines serviced every 12 years because they want it obviously fresh for the pupils
Yeah,
on there.
yeah, yeah.
But for domestic home use, then at least 5 years.
Yeah.
I've had it even longer than that, and they do look after themselves. But as we sort of said before, listen to your machine, hear it, hear what it's saying to you, and if it doesn't sound happy, then do something about it. Because catching a problem early
Yeah.
can save a lot.
And
of
it's so
hassle
lovely
later.
when it comes back because it feels like a new machine again.
And that's the hoping on there.
And
It
that's
is
the lovely thing.
that you should, when you get something back from service, and I know whether it's a car, whether it's a sewing machine, you've spent a lot of money on having it serviced. It should feel different. It should run different. You shouldn't get it back and think, hang on, why is it the same
Yeah.
on there? And so it's something like that.
Yeah.
You get to understand your own machine there.
So can we talk then about the warranty? These machines that we have been selling to you and they've gone out like hotcakes
Right.
this morning.
Absolutely.
We said they will get, hang on, I'm just going to bomb me in. You will get a 2-year warranty.
Yeah.
What is that warranty about? What can we expect with that warranty?
Right, Juki UK on a new machine
Yeah.
put a 2-year warranty with their machines.
Yeah.
That covers you parts, labour,
Mm-hmm.
it's mechanical and electronics. And also we do offer a full back to base service as well. So under warranty, again, long as it's not a user error, fault or something like that, we will completely look after you for 2 years on
Right.
there. Obviously, all the helplines are available. Obviously, that's not a warranty thing. That's just our backup that we do.
And that's free, isn't it?
And that's all free
yeah.
of charge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
9 times out of 10, especially when the new machines and sort of use it, it's getting used to it, and we can solve it over the phone
Yeah.
usually. What I do like to say, obviously, we've got emails, we've got websites and things like that. I don't know whether it's just me being old-fashioned. Nothing better than picking up the phone and just chatting to us,
Yeah.
because sometimes you get emails back and forth and it's queries, or you've got customers put a list of things down which they don't necessarily need to do. Pick up the phone, we're here to talk to.
But
which is
also
great
you
that way.
can then hear, because that was the big key for me. And I think sometimes, in this day and age, we worry that people are too busy. But here's the
Yeah.
thing. If you're too busy, you don't pick up the phone.
Well, this is it.
That's the thing. Whereas if you're not, then the phone gets picked up and
Yeah.
that's absolutely fine. And you've picked up the phone because you can talk. So don't worry about it.
Definitely don't worry about it at all.
And
We
it-
also have a full ring back service as
Yeah.
well. You can actually book online a time for someone to phone you as well. So no, we've got a lot of that to
So
help.
all of those are available for you. And this is
Very
why when
much
people
so.
say, why did I choose Juki? When I started Natasha Makes, I made the conscious decision, and believe you me, I have demonstrated, played with.
Well, you've played with a few machines, haven't you?
It would be fair to say I've known a few. And Juki just always gave that superior service, that superior quality. I was never worried about ringing. And also, I fell in love with this machine at Festival of Quilts. And I don't know
That's
if...
a few years.
Yeah, so it was on my wish list. I'd just had Emily, so obviously I'd just come off... Had I? Or was I... Oh, no, it might have even been before I was even pregnant with Emily.
It was before, because
It was,
yes,
wasn't
that's
it?
right.
Yeah. And I
So-
had to do a Creative Grids demonstration on one of the stages, and you guys had supplied the sewing machine, and
that's
it was
it.
one of these. And I had never touched one of these machines before. I was absolutely terrified because I did know exactly how much they cost because they'd just come in on sewing quarter. And I was absolutely terrified to touch it. I didn't think that I would be able to manage it. And actually, it looked after me a treat.
Well, this is
I don't know what I was so afraid of.
Because on the basic sewing side, again, when people sort of look at Juki, there's two ways they look at it. They can end up looking at the technology first, and some people automatically just put off by technology or think it's going to be a lot more complicated than what it is. Technology, if in the right place, is a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
And with the NX7, we have taken the technology directly from our industrial machines.
Now, Juki, for those that don't know, your machines are in over 40% of the world's make up over 40% of the world's industrial.
This is it.
Machines.
We supply over 40% of the world's manufacturing machines on that. Juki themselves are the largest manufacturer of sewing equipment in the world. So
it's crazy, isn't it? I didn't know that until I started looking into it. But it kind of makes sense, because at no point are you going to have that know-how and that knowledge and go, well, I know all about these industrial machines, but I won't use that for the domestic.
That's it.
At no point did that happen for Juki. They went, we want these machines to last. We are going to make sure that know-how.
Well, with Juki themselves, a lot of people can think the industrial, they actually made a domestic machine first before they actually got to the industrials. They're 1938, sorry. They're 82 years old now, or something like that. Yeah, that's right. Not quite as old as me, but hey.
On a good day.
On a good day,
not feeling
absolutely.
it, yeah.
And they first come out with a domestic machine.
Right.
So a lot of people think they started with the industrial side, but it was the industrial side that just took them in another direction on that.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at the other domestic manufacturers, a lot of them did industrials as well. Virtually no one makes industrials anymore on that. A lot of the people you sort of think you see industrials are not actually there. There's badge machines, a lot of them, because a lot of them now concentrate on that domestic side. And there's two ways you can go. You can go mass merchandise domestic, so you stack them up, sell them as cheap as possible. It's all about volume, volume, volume. And with a couple of the manufacturers, they need volume to keep their factories going. That's what it's all about for them. So,
and you know, and that serves a purpose.
And it fits the purpose, absolutely. And, and then, but you know that's a certain price point.
Yeah.
So you've got to expect a certain performance, expect some reliability, obviously a lifetime as well. So what we've done at Juki, and don't get me wrong, say Juki themselves do two different styles of machines. They do their full domestic machines, which again start at a lot lower price. But if you want that true Juki performance with the industrial technology, and then that's where they would then start at the higher price on there. And then for that, you know, even with their starting area, once you go into the machines, they've got box feed, so it's much stronger, much more powerful. That's why it would then cope with different varieties of fabrics, lumps and bumps. DC powered motor, very smooth, very quiet, but also the nice thing with that, even when sewing slowly, it will give you full penetration power. So you haven't got to run up to something or strain. As we all know, the amount of times I hear when somebody say, oh, when I get to the lump, I turn it over by hand, and ooh, if your machine doesn't want to sew it naturally, don't put it through it, because you'll know it's doing something it shouldn't be doing. And then
I think the only time I do that is like if I'm slightly unsure as to whether or not how close the metal bit on a zip is.
Lining,
and I just tend to differently.
Absolutely, lining your needle
honest,
up is not a problem. That is it, because I prefer if you line your needle up rather than smash it into a piece of metal. Is much better for you. So definitely on
that's the only time that I would do that on this.
That's it. And then, as we've developed it, we've added more and more features on there. So now going into the NX series, we've got the built-in dual feeding system and what we call a smart feeding system. So it's not just a built-in walking foot. We've got now a differential feed on the walking foot, which basically means when you're using stretched jersey fabrics, like an overlocker, I can take it so it doesn't stretch it, so therefore I'm getting no sort of lettuce edging as such, so it comes out perfectly flat. So we've redeveloped the walking foot now, so we've just taken it that one step further.
So, I mean, we've had questions about the walking foot on this, and somebody said, you know, is the walking foot the only difference between this and the DX7? I said, well, no, actually, the whole size of this machine is larger. This has got a larger neck for rolling your quilts into, all those sorts of things. There are so many different features between between this, because, you know, there's a big price difference, and so you want those extra. This is a machine you don't grow out of. This is the dream.
A lot of the time, this is you're growing into sort of it's always the way. I think the more you have, the more you want. And the more you use generally as well. So starting with something like a DX, again, mechanically, fantastic machine.
Love my
on
DX.
there. It's again, it's a workhorse. It's
Yeah.
a tool that does a job and it just goes on forever. And believe it or not, when we first brought this machine out, obviously people had Exceeds, which was the predecessor to the DX. So they were the first ones with the stronger chassis, the stronger box feed systems, the motor. The whole sewing setup was really upgraded over any other domestic machine out there.
Yeah.
And then going to the NX series, the DX has an 8-inch arm, 20 centimetres. This has a 12-inch arm, 30 centimetres. Again, it was
a big difference.
it's a big,
isn't
big
it?
difference. And the
Yeah.
market wanted that. Is because before this size of arm, the only way you could get this size of arm was if you went to a full embroidery sewing combination machine.
Yeah.
As we all know, once you go combination machines, you do lose some bits and pieces. They do change the way they sew. So the NX become the largest non-embroidery system sewing machine domestically on the market.
God, I didn't realise that. Amazing.
And that was the nice thing. It's sort of, again, just it's rather than going down certain ways, and we could have gone full embroidery systems and things like that, but it's not what Juki are about.
No.
It's about that concentrating on purity. So we want that performance first, and then on the screen itself, we put the industrial. So this was actually taken straight from our full industrial machines. Why does it need it? Does it really need it? But the features on there,
It's
again,
really nice to have.
exactly
Yeah.
it. We really need a lot of things in our life, but we haven't, because it's nice to have on there. And then once you start tailor making the machine, so I can program it so it automatically ties on and off at the finish. And it doesn't just do it with a zigzag, it does it on the spot for patchwork and quilters.
Yeah.
So we've thought of both on that, not just one. Also, we can have it so it automatically cuts the threads for us. Well,
Love
again,
that.
if you're doing a large quilt and you're dragging around, the last thing you want to do is keep snipping underneath,
Yeah.
dragging, moving. You then just cut, go on. You're saving lots of thread for starters.
Yeah.
And good quality thread's not cheap, so
No.
it's definitely that. The pivoting, so now we can actually gauge the auto lift. So when we stop sewing, the foot will automatically lift itself. And
Love
we can
that.
actually alter the height of it as well. So we can have, if we want to pivot on 2-ounce wadding, we
Yeah.
can set it to one height. When I pivot on 6-ounce wadding, we set it to another height.
And the beautiful
So-
thing is when it does that, it drops the feed dog so that when you do pivot, it
Yeah.
doesn't catch, especially if you're using fine materials. So
Yeah, well-
dressmakers, happy days.
Dressmakers on there, if you're using that real sort of fine organzas and things like that. But also, we've all used things like volume fleece. It sticks to everything,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
one of those things.
yeah.
And if you've got the bits of teeth in there, it catches in there. Obviously,
It's more to clean.
It's more to clean. But obviously, if it starts tearing parts because you haven't realised, you start dragging it.
Yeah.
Then you can tear a hole in fleece quite easily, as we know, or waddings quite easily. But so again, this has solved that for us. So.
It's brilliant. Yeah, Donna's just said, you know, she used to work on an industrial Juki. She absolutely loved it. She used to make coats for Paul Smith and
Oh,
people like
wonderful.
that. So, you know, you've got your top. There's a reason, I think, that top-notch designers and those houses that are making top-notch quality, they use these.
Juki, exactly
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's well, to them obviously it's business's money on there, and you don't want a machine that's going to be breaking down 5 minutes, or when you look at the stitches you think, hang on, that's not a straight stitch, that's got a slight movement in the needle and things like that. And that's why on the Kiri, again, with the change on the DX machine, there's a little difference on there. The needle plate was a switchable needle plate.
Yeah.
So you just flick the switch, turn it from straight stitch to zigzag. Yes, brilliant, because it will give you that small hole for finer fabrics.
Yeah.
But in a way, I don't know, sort of about putting the DX down, it's still only half doing it, because you're working still with a zigzag feed system, so a wider feed system. And that's something on the NX we decided to develop. Instead of just a needle plate to change, we can actually change the whole feed system as well.
Yeah.
So, and the big reason for that is on here.
Right, let's go close on this. Here we go. There we go.
on-
If you can
right.
lift it a little bit.
I'll just say moving it across onto
Up
here.
there.
There we go.
Or even just down a
So
little bit.
if we can see on here, it's got 3 slots now on the plate.
Yeah.
The standard needle plate has 7 slots. So this is now just performing and does one thing and one thing only. It's not wider, so it's not tearing into the fabric, so it grips, it's a lot smoother. And then compared then to with the feed system, which then gives you a 3-point feed system, which again for straight stitch, that's all you need on there.
So when our lovely ladies come to do their block of the month, when they come to do their quilting,
yeah,
because they've just bought their machine, they've got the quilting to do, that's the next step with our block of the month. This is what they need to change over to.
Absolutely. So what we can actually do, which will make it even perfect for their... So a lot of people now are demanding more and more quality, and there's nothing wrong with that. But on some machines, you're just not going to get it. And then, but on some machines, you can get the quality, but obviously you can then tailor-make the machine for that quality. So for that, what I'm going to do is just take the needle plate off, and on there, just lift that up, and I'm going to take the feed off as well. So then what I'm going to do is put it into the straight stitch mode. So put in the straight stitch feed, again, that just clips into place, and then the needle plate will then just lock into place as well. And the great thing about having the built-in dual feeding system, the smart system on here, is I can actually use it with my different attachments. So I haven't got to just use it with, obviously, a screw-on foot is then a zigzag screw-on foot, sometimes interchangeable plates. So I can go to 1/4 inch feet, straight stitch feet, and the nice thing with there, so see there, on that, I can now then just pop onto my foot. So that's for now set up as a pure straight stitch machine.
Amazing.
But I can now turn it into a walking foot straight stitch machine. So
and we'll even screw the bottom back on at some point as well.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll do that. I'll do that bit.
That's all right, don't worry.
As soon as I've done that, the machine is now recognised, so it will only allow me to use certain stitches. So again, I can't go wrong
very
at
clever,
all.
and this is the thing, you just can't. I mean, trust me, if someone could break it, it would be me. Do you want a new needle, Gary? You know,
I
because
don't know how old that one was. I was going to actually put that one back in. I know I'm telling people not to do that.
Look, this is me. So I've got a whole pot of them. When I
Thank
say
you very
I've got
much.
a lot, I've got a lot.
So
Just try snapping one. I now need to see, because I've got various makes. Hey!
There you go.
Thank goodness I can stock those then. That would have been awkward, wouldn't it, if it had bent?
well, it's just these little things again. You probably just never know. You just go through.
Why would I know?
And then,
Yeah.
exactly it. And then it's only sometimes when you think, why does it keep doing this? And then you think, oh, actually, there is a reason we can solve that.
Yeah. So these will be the ones. You'll notice I've got a big box of these, and if I don't know if Gary can even see what's written on the back of the box, because I've upcycled one of my pin boxes.
If in doubt, this one is it.
Yeah, because it's a universal, it's a different size, and so I've got the finer point one, and then just a little note to myself: if in doubt, use this one.
Use this one. Well, everything I do, it's fair, if you've got size 90, I actually use size 80 on everything, but I change my needle constantly on there. But I'm sewing through leather, vinyl, quilting, patchwork, so I'm putting absolutely everything through it, and.
But can I use just a universal needle like that in the overlocker, or does that need a different needle?
Right, well, it is. we was sort of little thing with needles here. I'm going to say there is no such thing as universal. Even though needle packets do have universal
they've got
on
it
them.
written all over it.
That's it. No such thing as universal. But what they've just taken is the majority of availability, and they've just called it's like standard. There's no such thing as standard. It's like, oh, I want a standard foot for my machine. Well, there's not. And also, it's like what your machine, because if you look at Juki, this will have a different fitting to the TL machines, which will also have a different fitting to the H series machines.
Yeah.
So even the same manufacturer will do different fittings.
No, you see, and this is it. It's like the universal bobbins. I learnt very quickly from you. Rubbish. And so we now stock the Juki bobbins. Yeah. Because actually. And now, because I still have some of my old bobbins, if I miss it, occasionally it slips through and one of those goes in. What I try to do again is just mark any of the real Juki ones with a J on, so I know. And it's just that. But people tell you I've done shows and I've gone, oh, hang on, it's playing at Y. And you go through reef threading needle, you go through all the normals, and then I'm going, actually, it's not a Juki bobbin.
Yeah, no, a lot of us have a couple of different machines at home, different makes and varieties of machines. And don't get me wrong, there are some parts which are certainly interchangeable between different makes. Yeah. But if you've got to look, so even things may look similar, doesn't mean they are. No. So certainly with something like a bobbin, you've got different depths of bobbin.
And the other ones were like a mil higher.
We can be 0.5 millimetre difference in there.
And what it just meant was that it wasn't sliding into the feeder bit. I mean, that's not probably the
well, it
technical
sits
name
below
for
the
it.
tension feeder.
Oh, there goes the feeder.
Because then your thread's got to change direction.
Yeah.
And what you don't want is your thread changing direction.
Yeah.
You want it to run as smooth as possible on there.
Yeah.
But also, not even just being a slate height. You may put it on the table and think, exactly the same height on there. But if this plastic is a different curve on here, it could rattle in the machine, it could vibrate in the machine.
Yeah.
Obviously, it won't spin freely in the machine as well. So,
and yet they look the same.
they look the same.
Yeah.
And then these so-called universal ones you can buy in mass bags at such a low price.
£2.50
Look
for
at the quality of the
1,000.
plastic and just run your finger around the edge and feel if there's any type of seam, and I can guarantee you it will not be smooth.
Yeah.
And that's anything what's not smooth will catch the thread.
Yeah.
So I have a rule personally: if someone tries to sell you something as universal, walk away, because they don't actually know what they're selling. If they're selling it as universal, I can guarantee they probably don't know what they're selling, because there is realistically not such thing as universal. Even though
every needle manufacturer will have their universal needles.
they say universal,
Yeah.
but I can pick up 3 different machines which will take 3 different needles. But the needles are more of an extreme where most machines will take a 705 flat-sided needle.
Yeah.
So that's a system of needles. So even in domestic, they will have
Right.
different systems of needles on there. So
Okay.
the needles, say, are not as bad, because that's one thing over the decades they've tried to keep pretty much the same for most. But there are still certain. But even when a lot of people sort of think, when I was going to sew different types of fabrics, oh, can I have a universal needle for what? What thickness of needle would you like? I want a universal. Well, that's again not a true statement. It's because you should choose then the thickness of needle to the type of fabric you're using.
Sure.
So they don't actually do then a universal needle to cope with all thicknesses. But contradicting that myself is what I said. I use size 80 on everything.
Yeah.
But I change it very regular, because I
regularly.
know what I'm putting that size 80 through is not necessarily the right
And
thing
is that on the
for
overlocker
it.
as well?
Overlockers, I only ever use 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Is that a 90 there in that part?
this is a 90 you've got in yours, so I'm quite happy with a 90. Yeah.
I've got 80s over here, which are finer, right? That's the way
That's
that
it.
it goes. So I've got, and that's why I've got finer ones there, and it's labelled as finer, because I can never remember which way
That's
round it
which
goes.
way.
And also know yourself. Like, I know I can never remember which way round it is, so I write it on there, because otherwise I forget. I ask Jane, she tells me, I write it on there.
This is it. Well, it's one of those. It's when you sort of base it. It's the reverse the thread.
Yes, and
So-
that's what throws me, because I can't remember that way around either.
Thicker the thread, smaller the number.
Yeah.
So a 40 thickness is thicker than a 50 thickness, which is then thicker than a 60 thickness, etc. That way. Needles go the other way. Smaller the number, finer the needle.
They've matched it with the thread. It
No,
would have been so
I
much
know, it
easier,
made
right?
life
They
so much
didn't
easier
think.
on
They
there.
didn't think.
And then the 2 numbers, or if I just say the 2 numbers, so you've got like, say, 80, 12.
Yeah.
And all that is imperial and metric.
Oh, is that
That's
all it is?
Only some. So you may buy some boxes will only have size 80 on it.
Right.
Old fashioned, it would have probably had 12 on it, and then they come through 80, 12, and all it is just imperial metric sizing.
Okay.
So,
Oh, that's
and then
good.
needles domestically start at a 60 or a size 8.
Right.
And then a 70 or size 10. If you've got needle threaders in your machine, a needle threader will never work with a size 60 needle.
Right.
And it will be difficult to work with a size 70 needle with a 40 and above thickness thread.
Right. Okay.
So it's just that rule of thumb
Just
again,
have a think about it.
gauging what you've got. So some people are sort of, needle threaders are not working, and sent it in, and they've got a size 60 needle, which they're trying to use with a size 40 thread. And well, to even thread that by hand is not even going to be easy.
No,
so
no,
mine by a
absolutely.
needle threader.
Okay.
So yeah, certainly anything over an 80, a needle threader will do it, should do it with any thickness of thread. 70 restriction on thickness of thread, 60 needle threader will not work.
Okay.
So,
I never knew this. It's fascinating.
No, again, good information, yeah.
Yeah, no,
This
perfect.
also then can save, because where we've had it where, I don't know, what people say, oh, my needle thread is locked into place, is because they've tried to use a small needle with a thicker thread.
Yeah.
And obviously it's just trying to pull everything from that small, and
Jammed
it
it.
just jammed it
Yeah.
up. So
Ease it out.
if that does happen, unscrew your needle
Oh.
and take your needle out, because it will release the needle threader then. So
Yes, of course.
yeah.
Yes, of course.
So
of
that's
course.
the way I would do that, because otherwise you could be forcing And
You
a
don't want to bend your
threader
needle threader, do you?
is a consumer wire part, and it is 0.4 of a millimetre thick. So it can easily bend if you bend it wrong. So it's a fragile part.
But it can be replaced if the worst happens.
On all of our machines, our needle threaders are clip on and off.
Okay.
It's something you can do at home because it is that consumable part on there.
Okay.
And also, just one thing while we're on the needle
Yeah,
threaders as well,
No,
which
this
I
is
do
fascinating.
help out for at home. All needle threaders that I know will only work in the highest needle position. So, natural thing when people
And with
come
this one, you have to put the foot down.
you don't have to.
It really helps.
It does help on any machine.
Because of the tension.
Because it allows exactly it. If you've got your foot up, you've got no tension on your thread, so your thread will just keep pulling.
Yeah.
So your foot down, tension clamps it. So when you use the needle threader, it pulls a loop through instead of just trying to pull a tail.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it.
And that's what it said in the instruction. I actually got that far in the instructions.
Brilliant. Good. Reading
And
the
so
manual.
I've never done it. I've never done it any other way. And I just thought, on the other machines it kind of but this, it's so much easier if you just
You
do
just
that.
put the foot down, and again it just adds tension. And what I would also say, instead of using the balance wheel on modern machines, coming from older machines where you've not had needle up, needle down, thread trimmers, automatically you would use the balance wheel.
Yeah.
That causes probably more problems than most other things on the machine, is because if you have moved the needle up or down, the key thing is you've put the take-up lever in the wrong position. So if you've had it when you started sewing and it whips the thread out of the eye of the needle, and you've looked at it, why haven't I sewn nothing? If you've started sewing where it's chewed threads up underneath, pulled up there, if you started sewing where it hasn't picked those first few stitches up, it's probably all because the take-up lever was in the wrong place.
Isn't
Something
that
as
amazing?
simple as that is because the take-up lever is imagine sort of the stroke which goes up and down on the take-up lever. So if you start down, then you've got your needle threaded. The first time you start, it's going to go that. So therefore, it's going to whip the thread out of the eye of the needle.
Of course it is.
If you've got halfway down and you've got the thread, that first bit down then will cause a loop.
Yeah.
And that loop's got to go somewhere, and it will then put it
of
underneath.
course.
So all
Now
the time,
you say it's so
sounds
obvious.
natural
Yeah.
on there. So realistically, anytime you start sewing, your needle should always be in the direct upright or the most up, or put the needle in the work. And then it's fine. So any machine with a needle up, needle down button, always use that. Never use the hand wheel, and I can probably guarantee you will never lose the thread out the eye of the needle. You will never get those jam loops to start off with. It will start perfectly each time.
Now you see, when I did, and when on this, because we kept threading it and it kept pulling out, we're like, what's it? Rethreaded everything, and actually what I discovered afterwards was there was where the thread spool was running low, it had exposed some of the plastic rim, and there was something that was catching on the plastic rim. So of course, as it was going round, it was just catching it and pulling it out. And you go through everything, don't you? And it's only after the show, when it had driven us slightly mad, I'm like, why does it keep doing it?
You look at it,
and it was the spool of thread, and it's so easy, isn't it, to go, I've done something to the machine, and actually it can be something. Look at the other things as well. Now Geraldine says, just very, very quickly, she says, is it the same phone wise for the overlocker as well? Yes, it is, and the number is 01206 563 955.
Yeah, that's one of them. If you actually go onto our website, there's about 4 telephone numbers on there.
Okay, that's what I use.
So we've got,
my phone is Dukey Help.
Yes, Dukey Help, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, and when our other shops are obviously open and our other classrooms are open, then we have got. So at the moment, we're still working behind the scenes down throughout our Salisbury classroom. So for people down south, we've still got helplines down there as well. So as well as Colchester head office, and then obviously myself, when we've got our other branches running, we will have more helplines as well. So, yep, we are there to help you, no problem. So,
you see, I keep that because I know that I can annoy you then.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you got my mobile as well, so that's all right.
I know, there's no escaping me, is there?
Absolutely. So, right, well, actually, I've just got that threaded now. So what I'm going to do is say, just put the foot down, and then click it into number 7, number 8, and then say, just making sure the needle's in its highest position. and then lever on the side through, and that's automatically threaded.
Oh, should we just spin that around a little bit so people can see?
Oh, sorry, yeah, we're in that. Oh, wrong way. So just in there. So with the thread on this one, so it just goes into number 7, which is the hook. We cut it off on the side of the machine, number 8, and then it's this lever. It's a lever higher up. We can see the lever slightly.
I can swizzle around. Bear with me, caller. Bear with me. Elizabeth's laughing. She says, "Natasha, you're getting a free service." I'm not
There we
daft.
go. Absolutely.
Absolutely
So the
not
lever
daft.
is here.
Yep.
So as we say, number 9 is next to it there, and then all I would do is just push that firmly down and let go. And if we look here, this is the bit what's moving.
We're looking.
There, let go, and there you
Ta-da!
go. Needle. That's your loop, threaded.
Perfect.
Oops. If I pull the loop the right way, it's threaded.
We've all done it. We've all done it.
Let's do that one again. Let's pull that loop through, and there we go, threaded.
Do you know
on
one of the saddest things for me, Gary, is that my nearly 90-year-old nan, who has been a seamstress and made things all her life, has stopped sewing because she cannot thread her needle.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, with her make of machine, there's no backup. She doesn't have anywhere to send it. None of the local places will repair it for her. So she stopped.
And just stopped sewing. And
She's
that's
just stopped
so
sewing.
sad to
And
hear.
it
really is.
absolutely breaks my heart. And she's like, well, I can't see to do it, so I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, and that's it. You give up that.
And yet, you know, as she's become less mobile, it would have been something she could have carried on doing.
Also, obviously keep the muscles moving, keep the
Yeah.
brain moving,
Yeah,
sort of such on there.
absolutely.
And this is what we are finding. It's not just the machines are easier to use now.
Yeah.
Certainly with like the drop-in bobbin, so you've got no separate bobbin case you're holding. You just put it in number 1, number 2, and number 3. So that's set. I haven't even got to pick it up when we start sewing. But also with sort of a modern machine, daylight lighting, much easier on the eyes as well. And then the great
and
thing
it doesn't
about
heat.
it,
I've left mine on overnight.
Yep.
Come back to it.
and also knowing that you haven't drained the power meter as well, because
Yeah.
they're all low voltage systems on there.
So I had a situation where I took this to Hochanda, and one of the directors wanted the light dimmed.
Yeah.
Well, I shouted it. I never shout at anyone, but the floor manager came at me with gaffer tape and starts in the middle of the show trying to gaffer tape my machine over. I'm like, what are you doing?
Excuse me,
Get off
step
my machine!
off the machine,
I have a
absolutely.
function for this, and I could adjust the lighting, but they'd got so used to guests coming in with machines that you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And they've been gaffer taping all these guest machines. I'm like, no, step away.
We can control
from
our
the
lighting
beast.
on here. This
But
is it.
please don't put gaffer tape on my sewing
Well,
machine.
the nice thing on here, obviously, we've got quadruple lighting.
Yeah.
So we've got on there. Then, as you say, we can literally go in, and then if we want to make it dull, we can completely take it down.
Yeah.
And obviously, then we can take it back up again. So we have that full control. Obviously,
With no gaffer tape needed. It's
no,
fine with me.
absolutely no. And please, at home, don't put gaffer tape on your machine.
No. I have to say, I made us both jump. I mean,
I was like, back off the machine, absolutely. Get protected over it. I don't blame you.
I know, I
so.
did. I had to go and apologise to her afterwards. Like, I'm really sorry I snapped, but please, you can't come at my machines with gaffer tape.
No,
Like,
definitely
no.
not. No, this is it. Yeah.
No.
Put it this way, just don't touch my machine. You can ask me.
But because it was mid-show,
Yes.
she didn't want to make that noise of asking. So
No.
I totally understand where she was coming from. The director had asked her to do something, and I
Yeah.
was just like,
No, never to be asked again.
no, right? Absolutely.
Because another nice thing we were sort of saying before as well about, again, just sort of different people using the machine, is not just your eyesight, obviously with needle threaders and things like that. Obviously we have got the full stop-start facility on here as well. So we can use it without the foot control. We've got perfect speed control on the machine. So even if we've got problems with our with feet, I know with sort of using sometimes with the muscles in the legs and things like that as we're getting older is not there. We can literally use it all by hand control as well. So absolutely brilliant that way. So
Well, that's the other thing that I do. If Captain Small is around and about,
yeah,
'cause
unplug it.
I'll unplug the foot pedal and I will just use the start-stop button. And also, I can let her press the start stop button.
Yes.
And she feels like she's
Be
getting
involved with it, absolutely, on there. And then we've got full slider speed control.
Yeah.
So we've got it from 150 stitches a minute set to
Yeah.
1,050 stitches a set as well, and everywhere in between. So you have got that perfect control over the needle. And again, so when youngsters do want to start, even if you say, if you want to start sort of, I know, a bit young at 2 years old, but sort of getting a bit old with needles and things like that, at least you can have it controlled, so it's not just going to race away. And
For sure.
and obviously having the safety features on there as well, you can lock the screen, so when it is being used, you know it's suddenly not going to do something else if it's accidentally touched, or Big Brother comes along and says, I want to play as well. And
But that's also the thing, and then you can lock your stitch if you've changed the stitch width or anything like that, and you want it kept like that.
That's it.
And especially because so many of us use this machine here, if I want to keep those settings, I'll just lock it, and then everybody knows not to touch it.
Well, and also we've got the 10 memories on there as well. So
Yeah.
if there's specific things that you are doing, and obviously we've got the alphabets on there, so obviously using the right names in there, it's stored in there as well. So it's then
Freddie's is stored in there, so
Yeah.
I can label all of his school clothes.
and literally it's just ready to go then,
Yeah.
but it's not going to disturb then any sort of piecing, sewing, where you've got set things that you need to do. You've got
Yeah.
enough memory in there, so
Yeah.
you can then store and play.
And you can create your own stitches. It's very, very clever. Jennifer says, "Good morning, Gary. Who do I contact to get my Juki DX7 service, please?"
Again, come through, either go onto the Juki website.
Yeah.
There's two ways of doing it. You can either go in and put in your postcode into a postcode finder,
Yeah.
and it will come up with your local service dealer. You can contact us directly, and again, we have a pickup, and we can arrange to get it picked up, serviced and then delivered back to you, or you can actually arrange to take it to one of our workshops as well. So yeah, many different reasons on there.
Okay. It's all right. Someone's just said, "I'm not sure if Gary's replaced the bottom section." No,
I
I
haven't.
asked him a question midway through.
And also, to be fair, I've not finished serving it for you. I've got to finish. I've got to give it a little. I didn't want to say how much dust is in there, but I need to give it a bit more of a clean out inside. While
You're
I've got
saving
it
my
apart.
blushes, aren't you, Gary? That's fine.
But now it's been mentioned. No, you left your machine messy. I need to clean it for you.
Yeah.
So as I know, pointed out, I haven't hooked that back on, but there is a reason why I haven't done that. So.
And it's because I'm basically getting my machine service
I'm
today,
going to give it a
ladies
bit
and
of a
gents.
birthday on there, which basically what we've just done is there, but I just need to blow out a little bit more, which I don't think you really want to see on camera, me blowing down the machine on everywhere.
Belinda says, "What's the difference between an HZL and an NX, please?"
No, right, HZL is the home sewing.
Right.
MO is for overlockers.
Yeah.
HZL is for home sewing machines.
Right.
So you will see a series of machines. So
Yes.
if you've got the DX series, you've got the H series, the NX series, it will still have HZL in front of it.
On the box,
on
yeah,
the
you'll
boxes,
see that on the
that's
box.
my home, that's
Yeah.
for the domestic market rather than the industrial, yeah. So, because again, as you start looking through, they don't just do the one ranges, they do quite a few ranges in there. So obviously from the long arm machines down to mid range, then obviously down to more the portable machines as well.
Gary, would you like to tell everybody what I've bought?
Did
you remember to bring with you?
I have indeed, yes.
Because
well, I won't. The story about that is because I went in and loaded up yesterday on there, and Neil was sitting there with this machine on his bench, one of our other head engineers in there. And I walked past him. Whose machine is that? He goes, "You know whose machine that is." I'm leaving in an hour's time on there. So your lovely high-speed straight stitch machine, your TL2200, I have got with me.
Boom!
So yes, well, we could have unboxed it on the show.
We could have done.
Yeah, we could have unboxed your new toy.
And this will be
there.
something that we will add onto the website.
Yeah.
Now the machine is, and this I've bought this for myself for my personal usage because we do so much straight stitch sewing.
That's it.
And the volume that we do. And actually, because Jane is often in the other room trying to sew, and we've only got one of these machines, so actually we needed
that high.
another one.
Well, with the majority, especially with the quilters as well, the majority of your sewing is straight stitch only.
Yeah.
And with the domestic machines, they're fun. There's a lot on there, and I'm not taking anything away from a domestic machine because it's such more flexibility, more versatile, coping with different varieties
we always say
of
about the
sewing.
one that I've just bought, it's a second machine.
It's definitely a second machine.
This is your first,
and this is it.
And this is the second, because it only does a straight
It
stitch.
only does straight stitch, but the swings and roundabouts on that is obviously it doesn't do zigzag, and we have had people to ask us, can you produce one of those machines with a zigzag? But the problem is, once you start putting a zigzag into any machine, it gives the needle bar more movement.
Yeah.
As soon as there's movement on a needle bar, it can sometimes not give you a perfect straight stitch. If your needle bar can't move left or right, it can only give you a perfect straight stitch. And that's why you see all the industrial machines. You have an industrial machine to do straight stitch, you have an industrial machine to do overlocking, you have an industrial machine to do hemming, industrial machine to do buttonholes.
The item gets moved round the factory, doesn't it?
Because it will give you a perfection of every stitch on each machine. So fantastic tools, but again the limitations where it's never going to be as fast is because it's trying to do more other things as well. So just over 1,000 stitches a minute. The TL machines are 1,500 stitches a minute, so it's sort of 50% faster again. It's also an industrial footer table. These are beautifully designed domestic machines, made them bigger, full metal chassis inside still, so very solid. They don't move.
They're fabulous.
When you hear them, I think that's one of the biggest things where we've been doing these shows. When I've seen people then live, is that quiet then, is it really? And they're surprised. They think we've dumbed it down on TV or the camera or...
For a long time I took my DX, which is lovely and quiet as well, but there are a couple of times where there's one director at Hochanda in particular, and if I know that he's on shift, I'll take this one. Because it doesn't matter how quiet the DX is, this one is quieter.
Just that bit smoother, quieter.
And otherwise he won't let me prep in the studio. Because he thinks it's being caught up by the other microphones.
Because the other mics obviously
and
are
you've
on
got to be
there,
fair to the other people. When it's their airtime, it's their airtime.
Absolutely.
So I will take this one, even though it's heavier to take, because I know. So if I'll always see who's on shift, and if that director's in, I'll take this one. That's the honesty of it, you know, because I still want to be able, those hours in between shows, I'm prepping, I'm making, because if a fabric's sold out, I can't use a demo that I might have done in that fabric.
Right.
I've always got to be able to
be
prep
prepared
in between shows in the studio. So for me, you know, these machines, they travel, they go everywhere. So I can absolutely tell you that is a heavy machine.
It is a heavy machine. Well, we're going back a little bit to what we were saying last time, where people are then investing into these machines who have then come off from a DX or an Exceed. People, they're not part exchanging, or this is sort of even second-hand machines coming up for sale privately. They're just a rarity, because once you've used, I obviously see a bit of a self-praisal thing on it. Once you've used this end of Juki, this style of Juki, it's very difficult to go to a lighter weight machine.
No, you don't want to.
So this is, say, a big machine. It's a heavy machine. It's built like that. It's designed like that. So where then people think, I want a lightweight machine, but then they've been used to their DX, they go to a light and think, actually, I don't like the lightweight machine, because again, lightweight means plastic. To make something light, you're making it of plastic at the end of the day. So people are keeping hold of their Exceeds and their DX as a machine to travel with, had to put in a car, even though it's still not a lightweight machine.
But it's the lighter
It's the lighter performance machine on there. Then they're having one of these, say, that's your new toy, that's your big toy, you've got your arm. But then you're realising, actually, for different types of sewing, then you've got your TL, which is your high-speed straight stitch machine.
Well, this is the thing. So for me, I often have, especially if I've got a one-day special over at Hochanda or the craft store, so now called, I can easily be prepping 7 or 8 shows a week. That is a lot of sewing, because I have to make the samples, and then I have to make make a start on, the samples that I will make on air. So that's a lot of sewing.
That's right,
to
you've
do.
got to say a lot of bits to start off with, and then obviously as you're going through.
And if Jane's quilting on this, so I'm very excited, and I wanted to show. So I will be bringing it on air, and I will be showing you my new toy because I'm excited. And it's not because I don't love this machine. This machine is still going to be working very, very hard, either on air or off.
Well, again, with even something like the TL that you're buying, the actual arm is not as long as this.
Yeah,
So
no, exactly.
it's got sort of just over an 8-inch arm, obviously where this is the 12-inch arm. What we did, being an industrial and only being straight stitch, it's got a very high rolling area. So that's the one thing we do praise it for, is you can actually roll up a king size quilt in it. So because it's a much higher area, because there's no gubbins here at all, because it's just straight stitch on there. And it's actually the #1 selling machine in the US and in the UK now to go on long arm quilting machines. On frame, it's got a quilting frame, sorry, not there.
That's crazy.
So where people have been putting their domestic machines on, for one thing, I would never ever put a computerised machine on a free gliding quilting frame. Too much vibration. And I do not want my computer machine vibrating it. Really not good for it at all.
Okay.
So I wouldn't recommend it. Also with domestic machines, especially when you go to long arm machines, and this is something, again, with our part development that we put into these machines, we have reinforced the chassis, i.e. there's no flex between the arm. I am going to do that now. There's no flex between the arm and the head.
Yeah.
So when you are using it at full speed, there's no vibration here.
Yeah.
So on some machines, you haven't got the reinforced chassis, especially when you've got it on like a trolley wheel. When you have it on these long arm machines, you've got vibration from the trolley, you've got vibration then onto the machine platform, and then if you've not got a reinforced arm, you get vibration here as well, and that is not doing the machine any good whatsoever.
You know what you've just opened up for me though, don't you?
What's that?
Getting a long arm.
Well, and this is where then the TL, because it's an industrial chassis, it's not actually, it's a full metal frame and body, not just a plastic coated.
What have you started?
There's no movement.
What have you started?
Yeah, so now you've got the tool to go on the frame. The ideal tool for it is brilliant that way. So yeah, it's certainly a machine to buy alongside. It doesn't overtake this. Only does it straight stitch. But once you've used it, you realise what a straight stitch machine actually does for you on there. And not being a domestic machine, and the great thing for things like bag makers and soft furnishings, I can use soft upholstery threads for it.
Yeah.
Which obviously on domestic machines do not like upholstery threads because the tensions are not designed for it, the bobbin system's not designed for it.
Yeah.
Where the TL being on the industrial basis, so where originally, well, the same same machine now I've been selling for 25 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't, apart from the slight colour change, the base of the machine has not changed for that length of time.
Well, because you're not putting all the computerised stuff in it.
No, that's it. There's no need to change.
Yeah.
It's basically
broke.
one model, and it was not broke, don't fix it. Exactly it. And when we first started bringing it in with Juki sort of 25 years ago, it was mainly sold for long arm quilters.
Yeah.
But then sort of people then started appreciating of getting that old fashioned quality back again of a high performance straight stitch machine. So they started using it then for general dressmaking bits and pieces. But at the moment, things like bag making, home decks, soft furnishing is huge now. So we're selling so much for that. And now on the TLs for that side of it.
The price of it, because I've got a lot of curtains that I need to make as well. For the price of it, I will save myself. I'll make that money back in not having to have people make my curtains for me. What you're paying somebody
else to pay.
That's how I justify it to myself.
Curtain making, or to have quotes on it, is so expensive.
I know.
And what is it? Straight stitch.
I know. But that's it, isn't it? So it means that I can get better fabric because I'm not having to pay for all of that.
And plus you can then make it how you want to make it. Exactly. And knowing the
Exactly.
machine's going to cope with it, no problem.
Now, Carol says, I clean my machine on a regular basis, but I've just done what Gary has shown, and I'm amazed. It just dropped out at the bottom of my Juki.
Excellent. Brilliant. That's
and
what
Barbara
I like.
said, I had that with my needle thread, and now I know that it was the needle.
Yeah.
Wow.
So again, it's these little things, and this is the great coming along where we can just chat every now and then. Things just pop in which we may not have mentioned before, but then we can just talk, and it's like it's helping. So this is brilliant. So.
Well, that's just it, because as much as I don't want people to think, oh, this is only something for people to watch if they've got an NX7.
Oh yeah, and I'm say
it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Everybody that has a machine needs to clean it.
Well, you say absolutely, you need to look after your machine, but also it stops the frustrations on there. And we all have on that sort of new things where you think it's a Saturday night or a Sunday night, it's 10 o'clock at night, your kids have gone to bed and everything else, you've got a couple of hours of just sewing, whatever you want to do that, your machine's not working. It's very difficult to get hold of anybody at that time, but at least by going through these systematically, right, unthread the machine, take the needle out, clean the machine, put a new needle in it. Is it the right bobbin? Start again.
Yeah.
And then that just solves so many problems by doing that.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. I'm just seeing if there are any other questions here. Carol says, I have the TL 2200.
2200.
2200, yeah, that's how I say
Mini,
it. There we go.
there's it. The TL 2200 Mini is the technical name for it.
And she said it's fantastic in shouty capitals, so I'm very excited.
Wonderful.
And she says that she uses that 99% of the time. And I'm really surprised with this. And now Belinda's saying that she has the same one. Would it make any difference to have the NX instead of the HZL? That the NX, the beginning of the NX is HZL NX.
That's it, yeah.
So Belinda, the NX
so
is
if Belinda's got a
an
HZL H series, or might have a HZL DX series, and then this is the HZL NX series. Yeah. So yeah.
So the TL.
The TL
is the
semi-industrial. Is the table industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. Yeah.
And is that what the T stands for? Table.
It's not. I've just made that up. But I just thought T stands for table. I don't know.
Well, we'll do that, and then H stands for home.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
fine.
That's it,
we'll go with that. I could actually remember that.
Yeah, H. That is how I actually remember. So the HZL is home.
Yeah.
Then you say TL is tabletop industrial
on
there. So it's not the true what Dukey used the codes for, but if you think of it that way,
and that'll help.
It's easy to
Anne
remember.
says, with the straight stitch machine, can you move the needle to gain a 1/4 of an inch seam?
No, but it comes with a 1/4 inch foot.
Okay,
because
it's the same.
It's a fixed needle position.
Yeah.
I've got no needle positioning on it. I can't do zigzag. It is purely straight stitch only, and that's why it's a perfect straight stitch, because the needle bar can't move at all apart from up and down. But the TL, again, the package it comes with, because we know we said it for, it comes with a 1/4 inch gauge foot. It also comes with a walking foot. It comes with roll hem foot. It comes with zip foot. It comes with utility foot. With the walking foot, it comes with a full adjustable quilting guide as well. It comes with free motion feet. It's fantastic for free motion stippling and embroidery as well. So it comes with a full setup, large extension table. So it is a complete package.
Amazing.
And also with the industrial side of it, knee lifter for raising the foot up and down, underbed trimmer. So it still comes with all of that as well.
Oh, can't wait for all the goodies. All the goodies.
Absolutely.
Now, Christine says she's late to the party, but and this isn't actually a Dukey question, so I don't know if you know anything about the brothers.
Go for it. Yeah.
It's the FS130 QC.
Okay.
It keeps missing stitches when I'm making masks. She says I've cleaned it, checked threads, tension, needle position, changed needles to thinner or thicker, plus top stitching and sharp. I've been sewing for over 40 years and now, and 16 of them in factories. It's doing my head in.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's a novice. And Christine makes beautiful, well, in fact, you can see one of the quilts because I'm leaning on it that she makes. It's really,
wonderful.
really lovely. And I've got a matching bag to go with it.
And this
so she's very talented. She knows what she's doing, what's going wrong.
Right. A lot of these people, when they're coming from an old machine to a new machine, we get a bit blinkered by the fancy bits on there. But what I will always say when anybody looks at a new sewing machine, forget the fancy bits. Don't worry about any of that to start off with. Make sure your machine can sew through light, medium and heavy without you having to do anything.
But it's skipping stitches.
Well, this is what I sort of, so if it does that and it doesn't bang, it doesn't murmur, it doesn't clonk, then you know the stability of the machine is going to be quite good.
Yeah.
Is because you can buy a brand new machine, use it 2 or 3 times, and if it's a plastic interior machine, it's never going to sew right again.
Yeah.
And so when some people look at a machine, it may have 150 stitches on it, and for little money, but there's a reason why it's that, is because the build quality is not necessarily designed for that type of work. Because the thing is, with quilting, you may not be using thick fabrics, but if you get a really good quality piece of cotton and you fold it over 4 times and try and put a needle through it with your hand, you're going to find that very, very difficult to get through. And it's the last to say where, as you say, been sewing all of these years and been perfectly happy with the machine that you've had, which is probably a 40-year-old, 30-year-old machine, which was made of metal, metal chassis, metal gearing, metal hook system. So everything was built to last.
Yeah.
It may not have coped with modern fabrics too well, stretch and things like that, but it would have done cotton, quilting, curtains, bag making, an absolute doddle on there. And the problem is, you've gone maybe to a new machine which offers you a lot of modern features, but the build quality is different. And if you've tried new needles, the correct bobbins, rethreading the machine, it's still missing the stitching. It's either, there's two things, it's either the wrong needle for the fabric, i.e. ballpoint for stretch and jersey fabrics, which then could cause it to miss stitches, or the machine is out of timing.
Right.
And
so
with
it'll need a
some
good
machines
service
in
or...
certain price ranges, once they start going, it's going to be very difficult to get right, is because obviously I'm not saying it over any specific make, so I know one make was mentioned, but I'm not saying it just for this make, I'm just saying it for a price range of machine. Once they start going, it's plastic, it's going to keep going, so you can end up chucking money away sometimes.
I will be completely honest, I went from a 60-year-old Singer, which was my grandmother's
which
metal,
was a dream, probably.
and
absolutely.
it did straight stitch and zigzag. And then I worked at Crate and Craft, and I bought the FS 130 QC. Did me a year. Did me a year, and then
because on paperwork it looks.
looks
Certain machines
great.
look good
It
on
looks
paperwork
great,
because of what you're getting for your money.
Yeah.
And this is why when, as I say a lot of times, like we don't get to play with the fancy bits, because to me, if it does the basics well, the fancy bits it's going to do. But it's the basics you need to know. And you just say with some machines, when you first get on it, especially with new machines which are built in a certain way, they're quiet, they're smooth, is because plastic doesn't rattle, plastic doesn't make a noise, but once it starts to get worn, which can happen in a couple of months' time, and as say, as you know, you outgrew yours in 12 months' time, and you probably got a bit fed up before then as well. It was kind of needs must. So, alas, there is some machines out there, once you've done the regular things of changing needles, and if it's still not performing right, it's probably the level of quality of the machine that now you're outgrowing. And it might not even be an old machine, so you might think, well, it can't be my machine because it's only X amount of age.
That's
but
so frustrating.
Doesn't mean you can have a new machine and it's not the right tool for the right job. It's not going to work, I'm afraid.
I mean, Gemma, who works with me, she's just come across to Dukey, and she bought a second-hand machine thinking, you know, they were expensive, and actually the interior had rusted. But she didn't know it, you know. There was no way that she would have known when she bought it. So she then paid the money to have it serviced, and when they opened it up, they're like, I don't know where this machine had been stored before you had it, but it just...
Well, again, it's that swings around where we have people sort of, they come in to either sell it, they want to sell a second, or they've cleaned the somebody's house out, so they've got some to dispose of, obviously been passed on and don't want any more, and they're coming, oh, this machine's brand new, it's hardly ever been used, but it's been stored in the garage for 20 years. So you know, when you take that in, you might as well just chuck it in the bin, because it's going to have rust on the inside, the motor's not going to be any good. So the worst thing with any sewing machine is not to use it. Machines love to be used. Keep it moving, keep it working. If you've sat a machine around for a long time not being used, before you even use it, first of all, I would take the needle plate off, I make sure it's clean inside, even if it's lubrication free, give it a drop of oil on the metal parts, because if it's jammed up, it can cause problems.
When I first started sewing again, and we're going back 8.5, nearly 9 years ago, I got out my grandmother's machine, and I took it to a little chap in St Austell, because we're living in Cornwall, and he did a full service on it, and it cost me £45. Got it back, and it you know, an absolute dream.
And it would purr again for another 30 years.
Because you know, and it took me a long while to realise that there just wasn't that much that could go wrong with it. Because it did straight stitch and a zigzag.
But also it's built right, because it's like sort of, again, with a lot
and
of
that's what Dukey are coming back to, isn't it?
This is it. And this is why I always point out where you've got different levels, even within the same name. You've got different levels of build as well. So yes, you can go out, and we do sell Dukeys sub £400, but don't expect it to work like £1,000 Dukey, because they are built in a different level. That's it. But obviously, this is where going to the DX or the XC, the DX, the NX series, that is where that quality build even from the DX right up,
Yeah.
that sewing system is the
It's
same.
there.
It really
It's there.
is. That's
No, it's
it.
absolutely there. It's fab. Do Juki make blind hem feet, says Anne?
Yes, they do. With all of their machines come with blind hem feet.
Which is the blind
So
hem?
on this particular one, we have foot R. Oh no, it is foot R on this. No, foot D. So foot R, foot D on this one.
Hang on, hang on.
And
Let's pop that close on the machine, Gary.
So
Let's
on
have a
there.
little look. And so anyone that's just bought one,
Yeah,
you'll get this because
that
they're
all
all coming
comes
with
as standard.
yeah.
So with the, again going back to the NX, with what we've got at the moment on the offer, because what we've done, as we all know, we're a very, very short supply of machines at the moment. Our classes haven't run for over a year, so we've basically got some brand new NX machines that I've taken to a show with me, maybe used once or twice. We've got some tutors out there with them as well, and obviously they've not been used at all. So we've got them all back, and this is why we've got this group of machines that we're selling off. So even though technically, yes, they are used machines, and yes, they are some of them a year and a half old, some of them have just not even been used, or they've been taken out of the box.
Do you know, Lawrence said to me yesterday, the big boss man, he said to me yesterday, he said, we've just sent one out for you, Natasha. He said, it looks brand new.
Brand new.
It looks like it hasn't been used. He says, whoever gets this machine is completely lucked out
Yeah,
because
I've been personally going through them as well to make sure they're okay. And literally, we've had them with, hang on a minute, it's still got actually the original packing tape on them, and all they've done is actually play with the screen, not sewn on a couple of them. And this is why every one of them we are selling as brand new, full warranty, complete accessories. I can certainly say when you get them on there, you probably think it's a new machine. We have basically got them back as new again,
and that's why I feel confident to stock them. I wouldn't otherwise.
Brilliant. And say
wouldn't.
for yourself, that backup service knowledge there, but
Yeah.
also ourselves, we wouldn't be selling them with a 2-year guarantee if we didn't have confidence with them, because obviously that is something that we are looking after fully on there, so no problem.
So Belinda says, does the HZL, do they all have the metal interior?
They all have a full metal chassis. Well, again, HZL is a domestic series, so there's different levels. So that you can buy a HZL, where before a HZL 27Z, which was a £230 machine. Which no, it didn't have a metal chassis because it was a very lightweight portable machine. So HZL doesn't narrow it down to a metal chassis or not metal chassis. It's the series within the HZLs.
Right.
So HZL H series is lightweight. HZL DX series is our first heavy duty one. HZL then NX series is our long arm heavy duty. Okay. So they're even, so really what I would say is come away from the HZL bit and concentrate either DX, NX, H series. That's really what will tell me the difference between the series.
Okay. Bridget says, I have the Juki QVP and I love it, but why do I get a bit of a bird's nest under the start of every piece of stitching?
Right, the QVP is the same as the DX7.
Yes, it was done for Festival of
That was
Quilts,
what we did for the Festival of Quilts. So again, fantastic
It just had a different coloured plastic bit on the
That's
cover.
right. Well, the same as what we've got with your TL. It's got the new blue, the Juki blue on there as well. So yes, it's that colour coding in there. So the majority of time, what causes that bird nesting is where the underneath has not been cleaned out. So you've got bits of thread, bits of fluff caught underneath. So therefore it's catching the thread and it's holding the thread instead of letting it feed through.
Bridget, join the you need to clean your sewing machine club with me.
Definitely not saying that is what it is, but that's the majority of what it is on there. So I would take the needle plates off, have a clean out underneath, have a brush around, and then see what happens from there. If you find it doesn't solve it, again, go onto our site, got our numbers on there, give us a shout. We always say, if you give us a ring, sit in front of your machine while you're ringing us, because we can then chat you through it.
Yes.
And that's the absolutely ideal way of doing it, that is.
Perfect.
So,
Oh, Gemma says I got it wrong. She said my other brand machine wasn't second-hand, it was brand new, internally rusted after 20 months and no refund. I might have threatened them with the Trades Description Act. Ooh, okay, let's
Yeah.
leave that beast alone then.
Yeah,
Step away from that one. Sorry, just for clarity's
I
sake.
definitely say, obviously, that wasn't one of mine.
No, it wasn't.
That's
No,
all
just
right.
to clarify, it was not. So Belinda's asking about the G210.
Yep, the G series.
Yeah.
So the G series is the first of our machines to have the heavy duty treatment.
There you go, Belinda, you're good.
So you've got the full metal chassis.
Yeah.
You've got the full box feed mechanism in there, deep field bobbin. Slightly, you've got the 8-inch arm still, so it's a semi-long arm as well. The only thing they didn't do within the G series, and that there's no knee lifters in there, they haven't got all the memory facilities. They made that to more of a basic workhorse,
Right.
without the creativity.
There is something for everyone, isn't there, with Juki? And that really is, but starting with that good build quality, that's
the key thing.
key.
Because not everybody wants to spend £2,000. Not everybody can spend £2,000 on a sewing machine on there. But an investment on a sewing machine is the right thing to do. So where I always look, you think, I only want to spend X amount on there. But then again, you look what you get for your money. And I always then find, right, okay, I'm not necessarily looking for stitches, but if I look at this, what am I getting extra? And this is where I do find going into some places on there where they can actually tell me, oh, it just does 100 more stitches. Well, I don't want 100 more stitches. What else can it do?
Well, Claire's just said she's got 30 stitches on her machine. She uses 5 or 6 of them.
And most people just did that
So,
hand for the stitches.
You know, if your budget isn't £2,000,
Yeah.
which, you know, absolutely not everybody's is, we're all at different stages
Very much so,
completely.
yeah, especially at the moment out
Well,
there.
but that's just it, isn't it? You know, it might be that you had a holiday cancelled or something and you are, and that, in which case, great. But if you're not, then if you are, say, after something that is around the £500 mark, say, what machine would you go for?
We do, say, the H series.
Yeah.
Then you are looking at something like sort of the H80, which is about the £500 mark on there. That you're getting a lot of stitches for your money, and it is a good all-rounder, but it is very much a home domestic sewing machine.
Right.
So it's not going to be necessarily it's not going to feel much difference or perform anything sort of difference to maybe I'm going to sort of a Brother, a Janome, or anything along in that sort of lines. It's got an elliptical feed system, so it's a standard sewing system on there. But to be fair, that's why it's that sub £500.
Right.
The first ones started the G series, and they now start really, you're looking at £800-900 is where that higher quality level starts.
And that's from the industrial influence.
That's exactly it. And that's going into that true Juki build, because the HZL 80 has actually got more stitches than the G120, which is twice the price.
Yeah.
But, and that's what I'm sort of trying to say, but don't look at stitches, but if you actually run, even though they've both got Juki on them, they both virtually do the same on paper, but if you actually sit there, and one's nearly twice the price of the other, so if you didn't actually sit there and have a go, and you just looked on a leaflet or something like that, why am I buying this instead of that? Why am I spending? But when you actually sit and hear them both, run them both, and feel them both, that's when you can completely tell where that extra money's gone into that build. So
Oh, Gary, thank you. When will the QVP air threading overlocker be for sale again, please? Is it back in stock yet?
I believe I know we're getting low again, but I thought we've actually now got some back in stock.
Maybe we haven't. I think we've asked everyone, because they were up and down, they were fluctuating. We've asked everybody that wants to buy from us to check availability with us. So it might be that that's the confusion. We've got them on our website, but I think we've got a cautionary, because one lovely lady, bless her, she had to wait like nearly 2 months.
Right, we had a big time delay on.
There was a time delay.
80% of our machines, we had that delay on, and then because of what was happening around the world, and then we finally got the whole shipment went into Central Europe. We didn't even make our own shipment at that point, because it was quicker to go in, and then we had to share their shipment. So we actually only got, I think, 30% of what we actually ordered. So we were always catching up. But now we've had a couple of deliveries come in. I think we're back up to now 90% stock again.
Okay,
so,
good. So we can. So if you're after, then we can sort you out on that front.
I say there's a very good chance.
Will you be at Festival of Quilts this summer?
Oh, if it's on. Absolutely. All the shows we've got the dates now for Ali Pali, for Festival of Quilts. Well, that's the main two at the moment.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of smaller ones going in. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. And so, saying that, so the first one is Sewing for Pleasure, which is allegedly going to be, they're saying about June or July, but
When's that going to be?
The NEC, but I've got a feeling that's going to be a no.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm wrong, because obviously we want to get out and get some shows done, because over the last 12 months, we've been selling so many machines. Everybody's just been so busy. It was just going to get out there and see people. So we can then answer the questions, be there, meet everybody again, and so that encouragement.
So Gary, before we finish, what is your favourite feature on the NX7? I'm going to really put you on the spot there.
The NX7, my favourite feature, well, I think it's just getting there and using it as a utility machine.
Yeah.
So forget all the swings and roundabouts, forget all of that. I know the type of sewing, so I can go in and I can set my pivot height to how I want it. When I get that precise sewing with the foot control, I have got that stitch at a time. When I stop, it stops. It doesn't do the extra stitch. It's all those little things which sometimes you take for granted, and you think, hang on a minute, why is my machine suddenly doing this, or why it's doing that? Picking the unknown bobbin thread up, then so I haven't got to sort of change it, wind it over by hand. I know that a lot of machines do that now, but now it trims the thread for you, so you're just ready to move on again. So it's that ease of use. It's programming the machine how I want it to work, not what it thinks it wants me to do on there. But the thing is, where I've got to say, probably 95% of people, customers, and it's one thing I really do take pride in as an engineer, it's just how nice it is to use. Quiet, smooth. And when I'm sewing through a layer of silk or turn up a pair of denim, the sound is the same. And to me, that's what I want to hear, because to me that tells me there's no bits of plastic moving around, clonking and things like that, which you know is going to cause a problem at a later date. And then I'm not pushing fabrics through it, I'm not helping, and so therefore I know the machine's good enough to take it as well. So again, it's lovely to play with all the mirror images, two-way mirror image, joining all the stitches together.
I love all that.
All the hand effect quilting. My favourite stitch on here is the tapering stitches. So we can do all the tapering corners and things like that. I haven't played around with that. What? Because we've got some new features on here to do perfect tapering. So for border edging, for quilting and that, it's fantastic. So on the stitch side, I think the tapering bit is my favourite. The overall part of what I would say of the machine, which I am really just more proud of, because it's what people tell me, it's just how nice it is to use. So many people come, and I think it is one of the highest praises, so many people comes, that feels like my old sewing machine. And I like to hear that. I don't want it to feel like a new plastic machine. I want it to feel like an old solid made machine. And one of the biggest praises, say, from customers when people come up and say, it just feels like my old machine. And
Gary,
I love
how long
that.
have you worked for Juki?
Well, I've worked for Franklin's now for 33 years. And
that tells me everything I need to know.
And Juki we've been importing now for 28 years. We've been importing as that. So,
And it's when I hear you say you are proud. And that was another thing, is I know you were one of the big reasons that I went with Juki, because I know you are proud, and I know that you won't dress anything up. You tell it exactly how it is. You are straight talking, and I appreciate that, and I try to be as well.
Excellent. Well, if also, if I give, or not say, if I give you a problem, if I sell a machine that's going to give my customer a problem, that problem is going to come straight back to me. We don't not pick up the phone. We don't go and sort of say, no, I need to get online. We don't sort of pretend there's no staff around. We have staff, we have engineers, we have helplines on sewing, mechanical, everything.
And the website, when people need to book in or ring you, is
juki.com and juki.co.uk.
It all comes back to the same place.
Both on there. So it's literally both back to the same place on there.
Gary, thank you so much. It's so good to see people are saying, when are you back? When are you back?
Well, this is the hoping now. Obviously, now we're allowed a bit more freedom. We've got a little bit more movement around, haven't we? Then, obviously, I'd love to come up and we can do a bit more. And then
Well, tapering.
Do some
Tapering will
sewing.
be.
We haven't sewn nothing.
I know. I've just realised that when it's half in bits.
Well,
isn't it?
it was so like that. Stop pointing that out. Look, I'm going to hide it on the camera. They won't notice that.
They've been shouted at you on here going, it's not done up properly.
No, this is it. No, I'm not blaming anybody on.
So,
no, I'd love to come back so we can actually get some sewing done.
Yes.
The fully automatic buttonholes sensor system, so it, not just the size of the button, for the type of fabric you're using. That tapering stitch, I think you will love that. The hand effect.
well, hang on. Have we got time? How long does it take to taper something?
Let's.
Right, come on then.
Just put it on. You're going to have to excuse me sewing with the bottom off for a minute, but I am going to just set it back to zigzag.
I think we might be lynched if we don't. Now you've mentioned it, Gary.
We can do this.
Now
absolutely.
you've mentioned it. I know those people that have just turned off thinking that we're finishing. They're going to be in for a surprise,
I
aren't they?
am going to ask for a dark coloured thread actually, so it stands out.
Okay.
A nice bright.
If you look behind you.
Lovely. So
Take your pick.
let's nice.
What else do you need?
And some fabric. A bit of just quilted fabric will be fine. Just
Something that's
obviously something quite plain, something white as well. So this stands out a little bit more.
I'm going to hang on a minute. You just have bear with us a minute while I just run around. There you go. You can watch Gary putting
On
everything
that,
back
so
together.
literally I'm just putting the feed back on, clipping it, so I'm putting it back to the utility zigzag plate on there. I am going to stick to the same bobbin, and the reason I'm doing that is because the bobbin thread on here is a much finer thread.
Okay.
So with a satin stitch, it's always nice to use a fine thread on the bottom, so you naturally pre-tension the top stitching, because usually a plique and satin stitch, you want it to look its best on top, not worried about so much underneath. So using when doing all the plique stitching, satin stitching, use a bobbin thread. One thing, it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot finer, so it will go longer. But it just takes the bulk out the stitch as well.
Hang on, use a bobbin thread.
Use a bobbin thread.
As in like bobbin fill.
Bobbin fill, yeah. So with sort of most embroidery threads that you buy now, it's a 40 thickness.
Yeah.
So if you balance it out and you put a 60 thickness bobbin thread on underneath, then it will pre-tension it, so it will pull the top thread slightly more underneath because the thread's finer. But also, when you look at general threads, if you look at 50-50, it will give you that 100 balance. So if you go 40 thickness on the top, 60 thickness on the bottom, it will give you that 100 balance as well. So you just
is that what you're looking for, sort of 100?
Well,
100 balance?
if you look at most threads you buy now, which is like all standard, is a 50 thickness. It's only when you start going to good sort of quilting threads, embroidery threads, where a lot of time when in embroidery, you don't want to see the underneath, you don't see it. Quilting, you don't see the underneath.
Yeah.
So why not have your thread pulled down a little bit? You don't need the tension to be as even.
Yeah.
So using a bobbin thread and then matching that thickness underneath, you will have a thicker thread on top, so it will stand out a little bit more. Thinner thread underneath, so it pulls that top knot underneath, so it's going to be a better tension system. So yeah, I would personally do that.
What about bag making? Would you ever use it bobbin fill for bag making?
No. The reason being you want the strength. Okay. So because bobbin thread, there's no strength to it, because it doesn't need to be on that side. Right, we've got a bit of a plain area on here. So you also then get all your plique feet with the machine as well, so that all comes as standard. So you get open toe applique and clear sole applique. So with the NX machine, that is all part of the package on there.
And how many bobbins come with this?
5.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 4 or 5.
It's 4 or 5. I think you get 4 in the box and 1 in the machine on there. So that's your needle thread done. So
I'm making you work hard today, Gary. Sorry,
just
but you did mention it.
just see what thread this was.
It's just a polyester.
Yeah.
What's that?
Have we got another one?
yeah.
Let me.
Why don't you, on the bottom row, all of those are Orifil.
That's better. Marvellous, thank you.
It's a nice pink one.
Yeah, nice,
Go for
nice
it.
bright one, something to stand out on there. Let's thread that through again.
Oh, that would be why that one was on the display then.
Right, so let's see if where we need to get the machine on the stitching on here.
There you go.
So the stitch I'm going to use, so we've got our satin stitch, applique stitches here. So on this particular one, we've got our tapering edge stitching as well, which we can do left tapering, right tapering, central. So it's up to us to play around with it. So what we're going to do is then go into our applique section. So on the side of the machine, we can just press that. Then we've got our satin stitching. So then what we can do, we're going to set one to a 45 degrees, so for corner tapering on here. I'm actually going to naturally take it wider. It sets itself to 3.5 mil.
Right.
I want it nice and wide on here, so I'm going to take it up to 6 mil. And again, the satin stitch is set to 0.6. I would say using this type of fabric and thread, I'd probably take it down to about 0.4. Again, you'd always do your trial bit first, just to get it correct. And then what we have got, so we can use it, say, with or without the foot control. I'm just going to put the foot control on there at the moment. So plug that in. So what it will do, it will start at the point and it then work itself out to a 6mm zigzag, because that's what we've got it set for. So I've got a bit of extra speed on there. Then it will then feed the satin stitch as long as you want to go. And then when you get to the finishing point, or the length of satin stitch you want, I press the tie off button, which is on the front is a single dot.
Yeah.
If I press that, it will take it down to a taper. It will stop, automatically lifted the foot for me. And then I can pivot 90 degrees. And foot down. And then let's go again. So again, it would take that. I'm going to elongate the stitch length a tad. So I've just changed the stitch length slightly. As you see, I can do that all as I'm going as well. So I'll just take it down to that point, stop, pivot, needle's in the work, stays in the work, turn, and again, away we go again. So it takes it into that tapering stitch.
It's tapering it at 45
degree angles on there, so it gives you that perfect mitered corner. So it's actually mitering the corners for us.
That's
And I can do that left and right as well.
And
So
so then when you, that's so clever. When you start off, you then, that's so clever. That's so clever.
And that's over, say, for boarding, for patchwork, quilting. So we can just see
that
on
is
here.
very
Obviously, I've
clever.
left this as an open bit here, so we can see the tapering, so that 45 degree. But then
That's
as
so
we can
clever.
see an actual mitered corner, it's giving you that perfect. But if you look at the quality of the satin stitch, again, that's another reason for having that box feed system rather than elliptical. It gives you perfect travel, so it makes that satin stitch a lot smoother. So yeah, so I just very sort of quickly on there, but that is one of my favourite stitches on there.
That's amazing.
I remember trying to do that years ago, where you would actually then, using manual controls of changing needle positions, moving needle across, having to manually turn to get that perfect taper stitch. Having it at a touch of button for me to control the size I want is fantastic on there.
That is phenomenal,
And it's
Gary.
just those
Thank
little
you so
things,
much.
brilliant. Let's say there's little things like that, which hopefully we get some more time and show at another time.
Yay!
I'll get to come and play
But
again.
at
It'll
least
be
now
great.
everybody's got clean machines, including me. Yay! And watch this space, because we will bring you my new tabletop industrial, semi-industrial as well. We will be bringing that. We will be one of the only, I don't really call us a shopping channel really, because we just do what we do.
Yeah.
And if people like it, they buy it. But yeah, it will be listed on our website when they're back in stock. So just be aware that when it goes up on our website, they're coming in May, aren't they?
Yes, they are coming in May. So I really long at that because the majority of them are sold out on that delivery.
Oh, are they?
Yes. Realistically, we're trying to get some more in because if festival quilts happen, we do sell
They go
huge
crazy.
numbers at the festival quilt.
Okay.
But yeah, the May delivery.
So you can get on a wait list,
you can get
basically.
on a waiting list on those ones at the moment. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's just a very, very popular machine, and because that comes from the industrial side, not domestic side. It's
Yeah.
actually not in the same deliveries as we normally get.
Yeah.
So there is that little crew, but no, definitely once you see it and once you start playing with it on there, now you're the only person who's going to be shoving it
great.
on there
Can't
because I've
wait.
not been anywhere. I've not got to any exhibitions, so it's all going to be in your hands on that one.
Oh, no
That's
pressure,
great.
no pressure. We managed to do 2 hours and only do 1 stitch. We're doing well.
Well, we've done 2 hours and 1 stitch.
Hey,
What can we
we've
say?
Oh, Gary, thank you so much. It's so lovely to have you
And
here.
fantastic being back again. Thank you.
And yeah, Adele said that she
hopefully
was
not over a year
excited before.
next time. Yeah.
She's super excited now for a machine. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Again, once you start playing, anybody out there, any questions, do not hesitate. Give us a ring.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. We will be back on Monday. Yeah, and in the meantime, stay safe. Keep sewing because, as we've just heard, our machines should be sewing.
Should be.
Should
Keep
be.
using them. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.